Welcome to Hardly Initiated. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, here with another episode with my co-host, Ryan Ketchens, and we have brought back my favorite therapist, one of my favorite healers, Dr. Spirit, to do something a little bit different because today we have two incredible initiates that came on today to get some live marriage coaching from the ultimate healer herself. So let's go ahead and tap in. Welcome to Hardly Initiated. It is your host, Tyshawn Jackson, my co-host, Ryan Ketchens.
I can already tell, man. It's going to be a powerful one right here.
You need to watch too.
I discovered porn when I was a child. My mom.
To get that white man's option out of him. Pursued me, I ran.
It's the blood I want, don't care.
This is dope.
You need to have a threesome. There you go. When you just got in there.
All right, guys. So let me tell you, very excited to go ahead and bring this to you today because we're doing something very different with somebody very special. Dr. Spirit, it is always an absolute blessing to have you on the platform. So welcome back.
Well, I'm excited. Like, you bigged me up like that, so thank you. Look at y'all, like intros, and it's all like
We stepping
okay,
it up. Yeah.
I
Got
see
some
you.
new things popping.
First of all, did we see, was Dr. Spirit on the intro? We about to have to do it over.
We got to run it back.
We about to have to do the whole. I'm
Yeah.
about to do the intro over because you got listen.
Well, I mean, you definitely, I would say, in the top one or two most requested to come back to the platform for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's, I know what it is. It's the level of impact that you have in such a short amount of time.
Amen.
And, I mean, we got so many problems. So when you
Listen,
bring
we all
that
do.
healing,
Yeah.
it's just for everybody.
Well, I'm excited. Look, let me take off my stuff so we not clinking, and let's get to work.
We
I'm
about
ready.
to get to
Come
work
on.
today. We are.
Yes, guys, we are
Let's do it.
absolutely getting back to work today. This episode is going to be very special because we are actually having some initiates of our own, y'all. I'm telling you, when y'all send us these emails, we read them, we involved, somebody reached out to us, and we felt like this was very important to bring to the platform and bring one of my favorite healers here to give us some context to help us navigate this situation. So I'm going to give us a little bit more detail right after I get through with my episode sponsor.
Yo, let me tell you guys, most people don't know how to have fun on dates. So Tyshawn and I came up with the secret formula to improving the chemistry between you and your loved ones. Now, guys, this right here is 100 open-ended questions. And I'm going to be honest, guys. I have used these cards. We have copious amounts of initiates using this card.
Yes.
And everybody is giving us 5-star reviews. So it's legit.
It's legitimate, y'all. Listen, y'all want to have the right conversation? You got to have them hardly little cards, all right?
Look at these beautiful initiates, though, flexing these cards.
I
Up.
love this.
Absolutely.
Lana, we got to get some more fellas
I'm
up
feeling
there.
this.
Yeah, we got to get the fellas because the fellas are tapping into, which I love, right? My
Yeah.
fellas are they trying to have some good conversation. They want to look, the fellas need the romance too, ladies. You feel me? So guys, keep sending us them photos. I love receiving them. If you've got your deck, make sure you send them photos to info@hardlyinitiated.com. And we already got the link in the
Yeah,
description,
I'm
right?
going to go ahead and drop the link in the description. It's already there, and the chat and the comments, guys. So you're going to see that everywhere. And guys, get these cards. Now, the fellas use it a little different. The fellas been studying it. They've been studying the questions. So
Oh, and then they go out like
and then they go out and use them. Exactly. Listen, however you use it, it's
I
cool.
don't know. That's a flag on the flag.
Is that a
right
flag?
there. That's a flag on the
Look, well, they
flag.
trying to, they want to get better at being interesting.
Yeah,
Hey.
that's great. But you also want to let somebody know this is who I am, really. So if I struggle with conversation, there's nothing wrong with being able to say, I actually was so impacted by this date. I cared enough about you that I actually invested in trying to figure out how we can go deeper to really get to know each other. Because what that says is that you care,
Yes.
right? Premeditated. I love that.
Yeah.
Fellas, do y'all hear that? That's
Yeah.
game. That's
Be
deep
real.
game for
Be
y'all.
real. Come real so you know if this is really your person.
Deep game.
That's all I'm saying.
Deep game. Speaking of deep game, guys, let's get to the show, man. Because again, like I gave you guys a preview, we had an initiate reach out to us because he's currently in a situation where he's married and they're having some turmoil in the relationship. In fact, they've actually proceeded to begin the divorce process. Now, this is a couple that's been married for 6 years,
Okay.
been together for 10 years. and they want some answers.
Okay.
They have both used Hardly Initiated as a resource throughout the process, and they have clearly made it clear that Dr. Spirit is my favorite person that you guys have on the show. So I did my best to try to coordinate and make these stars align to be able to allow them to get some healing from you yourself.
Okay.
So we're going to bring them up one at a time to have a conversation and get a bit of understanding so you can give us a bit of perspective. All right?
Okay.
So, guys.
So you got to tell me, how long do I have with each of them? I'd love to see them both at the same time, but we're going to do, how are we going to set this up?
So
You
what
tell
we're
me.
going to do is I'll go ahead and bring them on one at a time to get some initial perspective
Okay.
from each person.
Okay.
So
it's
we can
two sides to every story.
Because it's two sides to every story.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get their views on just their overall perspective of the marriage and what got them to this point of divorce.
Okay.
And then from there, we can bring them both on. And obviously, you're gonna be giving perspective and asking any questions that you feel like you need to ask throughout the conversation. So feel
Excellent.
free to at any point to
Full
interject
authority.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
be Dr. Spirit.
Okay, I
and
can
so-
ask them what I need to ask.
Whatever you want to ask me. And this is the
Okay.
thing. Tyshawn and I, you the expert, so we're relying on you. So
Okay.
if we are going into a direction that's not, we're not quite ready
trust,
for.
I love y'all,
so-
but I will rein you in.
Okay, good,
We're
Let
not
us
going
know.
to give nobody no bad nothing up in here.
No, and let me tell you, Dr. Spirit is so incredible. I tried to give Dr. Spirit a whole deep brief on what's going on, and she's like, no, I want to find out in real time. I want to
Yeah.
get to know them with the audience, and I want to be able to let this be organic. So this is all flowing in real time, family.
Now, Todd, before you introduce the first guest,
Yes.
can we just thank them and for having the courage to come onto the platform to have this conversation?
Absolutely, guys. I think first of all, I commend anybody that's looking to get some answers, get some healing, and not just stay stuck. Because Kawhi actually reached out to me, the first brother we're gonna bring up here on the stage, and he genuinely wanted to get some help, even though he's going through the divorce process right now.
I love it. Okay, so Kawhi is the husband.
Kawhi is the husband.
Okay.
So again, big shout out to both of y'all for coming up on here. I've had copious conversations with them both before here today, and very excited to have you guys finally be able to have this conversation happen, because I think they even tried to reach out to you, but
really?
it's
Okay.
finally happening here today. But so we're gonna go ahead and do it. I'm bringing Kawhi here to the stage. What's up with you, brother?
How you doing?
Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Doing well.
All right, Kawhi, look, let's listen. We've already had some conversation prior, but I want to obviously get Dr. Spirit up to speed with what's going on and where we are. Okay, because you have been married now for, I think it was 6 years, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just take me back to the beginning, right? Because what made you initially want to propose to Jakira in the first place?
We started working together, I'd say around 2013, 2014. And I say the late night conversations, because we work third shift. So just getting to know each other over, I say a course of a year, I want to say. Working together, just conversations, dropping her off at home. Because I was the type of leader or shift leader at that time, if I'm not mistaken, that didn't want anyone to not have a way home. So I'll drop off everybody. So late night conversations, one thing led to another. I asked her out. We initially went on a date when we first was working together. Boss at that time shut that down because no managers working with dating employees at that time. So I say a couple years passed by. I reached out again through inbox, through Facebook, to rekindle the relationship out there. I say a few years of going through life, losing a couple family members, just finally getting to a place where I'm ready to settle down and move forward. Jakira was always that one that stuck out to me. I say just everything that she presented by herself, the way we talked about naming kids early on when we were working together. We almost named all our kids, even a baby girl that we never had, but we had all boys. Mm-hmm. So it was just those late night conversations, and she was, I'm gonna say, always that one that stood out, and I saw all the potentials, I saw all the insecurities that she had, all of the worries. I saw everything in it, even in the early conversations. And that really made me connect to her a bit more. I'm gonna say that. It just made me connect to her more. Knowing everything that I was dealing with or living with at that time, she just was that one I felt connected to the most. And I just pursued it, and one thing led to another, and almost 6 years later, we have 3 kids, 3 boys.
Wow.
Been married, we had our ups and downs, or we currently married, have our ups and downs, and just really trying to figure out and get closure on both ends right now, and trying to figure out what really led to us going our separate ways. Because I say right now, we both have unanswered questions.
Okay, so Kawhi, just so that I'm clear then, the goal is not to see if you all can reconcile, but it's to understand how did we get here, and what, I guess my question would be for you is, what does closure mean to you?
To be honest, we have had moments over the last few months that make it seem like it's hope there. I'm just gonna be honest, I'm not fully there, and I haven't fully accepted everything or how our relationship is right now.
What does that mean? I'm not fully there. Does that mean I'm not fully wanting divorce, or I'm not fully there wanting to try to reconcile?
I never wanted divorce in the first place. I made it clear to her I would never initiate it. I would never file it. I felt like everything that was expressed to me was able to be resolved.
Okay.
Even all the unspoken things that I found out towards the end that really shifted us to our relationship, friendship, everything being in jeopardy.
Okay.
So I made it clear I never wanted the divorce, and I always envisioned a life with her. So even to this day, I just came to the point to just accept it, because this is what she wanted. This is what is needed to move forward, and I'm just kind of trying to figure out what the future entails and really give her the closure that she needs, give her the answers with a third party. We both love you, and just feel like you can give, I'm gonna say, more of her the answers she needs, because I don't want to make any assumptions, so I can't speak for her the reason, but maybe we can hear it live or just hear the direct reason why things went left in the relationship, or why the
Wait,
work wasn't done on
Kawhi,
both.
are you telling me you guys are at the state of divorce with action pending, and you're still not clear on what led you all to this place? Like, you don't know how you all got here?
I know the lack of effort on both ends, the lack of communication. I know all the things that led to this. I'm just still not sure if this is what she wants for sure. Okay. If this is what she wants, I'm fine with it. I'm ready to move forward the best way we both can.
Okay.
I'm at that point. It's just something I never wanted, and I truly don't want, but I'm okay with it if this is what we both need, or she needs to move forward, and obviously I'll take the time I need to move forward also.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
And did I hear you correctly? Did you say that there have been some things that have transpired since you guys filed, that you're not sure if you want to continue to be friends with her beyond this point if you move towards divorce?
I want to say it happened during the time of the filing or right before, and even just some of the terms or things that was said that still don't sit right with me for some of the decisions she made. I'm gonna say that during the course of the separation, that kind of leading to our friendship being so rocky, or the potential for us to even be friends being so rocky. So I'm just trying to see how we can possibly move forward if we're going to continue with the divorce. If we continue separating, how is the future going to look for us and the kids? Because we're always going to be involved with each other because we have 3 kids together. So that's what I'm trying to say right now. Some type of ship, some type of friendship, something for us to stand on.
How do we salvage something here between us?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Spirit, is this a good time? You got some? Did you get your basic questions answered for us to bring Jakira on now?
Well, what I would be interested in knowing, Kawhi, from your perspective, I heard you say there was some communication things. But if there was no really big identifiable problem, would you say,
So
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off. So the biggest thing, I'm gonna get to the story so we can just lay it out to what initiated, I say, our core problem.
Please.
So I've been identified that I had childhood trauma early on. I say around 14 when I identified when I was taken advantage of at a young age. I didn't identify until around 13 or 14 that it was even a problem. So when I identified it, it took me through, I say, some identity crisis. Trying to figure out who I am, the feelings that I'm feeling, is it correct? Is it the right thing? And then also, I say I shifted to 10 to 15 schools in my elementary to middle school years. So I never had a stable base. And then also building up so much resentment towards my family because of the childhood traumas and not being able to be seen, or them over brushing the abuse that I did receive at a young age. Or I say it was a couple times they walk in and saw the action, but they kind of brushed over it like it wasn't a big deal, or they just didn't see it. I don't know, really can't speak for them because I was around 6 or 7 when I can remember the first time getting caught in the act of getting molested. But no one never said anything. No family ever stepped in. And be honest, I never said anything. I kind of closed the doors on really all my immediate family, my trust system, my mother. I still to this day have, I say, some unspoken words, some resentment, because I feel like she failed me. She sent me to a family, ended up getting molested, and it lasted for 6 years, from 6 to 12. So in my teenage years, I battled with identifying, do I like women or men?
Okay.
So I struggled through my whole teenage years trying to figure that out. So I went through depression, suicide attempt, everything, being admitted into the hospital, all of this, trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
And still kept that to myself for, I'm gonna say, almost 21 years before Jakira being the first one I ever told in our marriage.
Did you wait until you got married in order to disclose this to her?
Yes. So that is where I identified all the initial core problems started. So a lot of unspoken things were still said at the beginning when I initially told her about all the traumas that I went through at the early age. What initiated to, I say, maybe 6 months, 8 months after that first conversation to say I was molested. I didn't get the response that I wanted at the time, so I withheld more information.
What was the response you wanted?
To be truthful, I'm not sure. It just maybe little patience or understanding. It was just the question that was asked after, am I gay? Have I ever had any experiences with a guy after being molested? It was just some of the questions that kind of threw me left.
So you were talking to her about the trauma, and she was hyper focused on, wait a minute, are you gay? Have you slept with a man? She was really focused on that and not the experiences that you had as her husband and how you had been affected.
Yes, so that kind of threw me left, which made me withheld the last part that was going to, at that time, initiate me saying that I was bisexual, that I've had experiences with men and women up until that point.
Prior to your marriage, Kawhi? Prior to dating her?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was just basically being fully vulnerable I'm saying I educated myself. I watched podcasts as other couples, just learning as much as I can, because we was about a year in, maybe almost 2. We was expecting our second child. So I'm trying to do everything I can to save the marriage. She kept saying that she didn't feel like she knew me, or something in that sense, like she wasn't connected to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm about to lay out everything in attempts to save the marriage. Even when I told her the news, I told her I came to the term that if I'm telling you this, it's going to possibly end us or save us. So I knew that I ran all the scenarios through my head that, okay, if this goes bad, if I'm taking all this advice from these other couples and it goes left, the marriage is over with. but at least I tried everything. At least
Okay.
I got to the point to fully trust at least one person in this world. And I chose her. I chose her to tell her basically everything about my past. Even to this day, my mother don't know.
Okay.
Family don't know. Brothers don't know. It's just I chose her to be that one because she decided to stick with me for, I'll say it was about 2 to 3 years. She gave me my first child. So I was very committed and was trying to build that connection that couldn't be broken because
let
we
me
made
ask you.
promises early on.
Well, and I want to stop you right there because, well, one question that I have is, as it relates to monogamy, and this is going to be a hard thing for a lot of people because most people assume that bisexual folks cannot be monogamous. That if I am in a relationship with you as a man and I'm bisexual, that eventually I'm going to have to be with a woman. But that's not always true. So I want to ask you, Kawhi, do you consider yourself to be monogamous even though you are bisexual?
Yes, I was fully committed into the relationship. And I made that clear even when she asked the question, what do this mean? I told her it doesn't mean anything. It's just me informing you, telling you about me, letting you know everything about me. So maybe this will help us start moving forward in the marriage. Because at that time, it felt like we was halted for many years with the lack of effort, the lack of commitment. And I didn't want to continue to feel like I'm dragging her along in life. Because it felt like I was making all the decisions. I was doing everything. And to this day, she says it was controlling. But I'm like, if one of us had to make decisions for us to continue to move forward in some form. We couldn't just stay stationary in one area of life.
Well, let
I
me
was
stop you.
already-
Let me stop you right there because I'm wondering, do you recognize the harm and the damage that you've done to your wife by waiting until after she committed her entire life to you, had children with you, before you dropped the bombshell on her that I am a bisexual man? So in essence, you're talking about choices and decisions, but you also took her choice and decision away from her by not sharing who you were with her before you said I do.
Yes.
Have you
I knew
taken any
that.
accountability for that?
Yes, I said that over and over again. I apologize over and over again. And I even see it from her point of view, even how you stated, she stated it exactly like that. And I told her to that day, I understand that, but it's not how I perceived to come off. It wasn't like I'm trying to take advantage of you or mislead you or anything like that. I just wasn't in a place that I could trust anyone. From age 13 to the time I told her that news, I didn't have no trust system. I didn't have anyone that I trusted in fully.
So had you already made the decision, even though I know or I recognize that I'm bisexual, it's just something that I will take with me to the grave? I am married to her, so I will always be with her?
When I initially got married, I say I had that feeling. I'll just take it to the grave. I'll never speak on it, never make any move on it, and be committed and try to build a life. That's what I felt the marriage was. Well, that's just how I feel any marriage is. You're building a life. You're building something. So I was just trying to figure out what was we building, what was we working towards, what was we growing to. That's kind of what I spent the last 3 to 4 years trying to figure out. What are we working towards? Because we're stationary at this news, and if we're not going to be together, let's figure out some way to move on. Because
Okay.
we could have been, I hate to say the words, but one of our children may not even be here. And even if I told her during, I say, year 1, the second child was on the way, I believe at that time.
You told her while she was
ended-
pregnant? You told her while she was pregnant with your second child?
I believe we had him because we was in Memphis at that time. So I believe he was born. Yes, he was born. So he was already born. So I say it was maybe 6 months in of us living there. She recalled us being on good terms. I don't recall us being on good terms at that time.
Okay.
So I used it as she asked me to this day, why did I tell her then? I didn't feel like we was moving anywhere. I didn't feel like we was connected. I didn't feel like we had anything like any goals or anything, everything was coming from, it felt like me. I asked her for her dreams, her goals, what did she want to do, so I can feel like she's included in the marriage, included in the relationship.
She was
Because it
already
felt like-
numb inside, though. You were trying. See, it's almost the equivalent of what somebody does once they say, "Listen, I've cheated on you," right? Because this is a major form of infidelity. I mean, you have just shattered the whole relationship, and then you say, "Okay, but I'm sorry, I didn't know. But can we just keep it moving? Come on, I need you to plug in. I need you to get with the program. I need us to continue our forever. I've told you now. I've relieved myself of this burden, and I feel good, and I feel safe, and I'm so sorry that I put you through this." But I don't know if you were able to really show up for her. And I
No,
just want
that's-
to, for clarity, I just want to make sure that I understand. And I want to make sure that the audience understands also. At what point did you know I am bisexual?
I knew I was bisexual, I'll say around, like the term for it was 16. I'll say 16, 17, around that age.
So you knew before you guys got engaged, you knew before you married her, you just didn't have the wherewithal to be able to be honest with her because you
Yes.
couldn't be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
So prior to me telling her
Hold on
the news,
1 second, brother. 1 second, brother. Because what I really want to do is I really do want to get Jakira involved in the conversation, and I still want to hear your perspective.
Absolutely.
So please be patient with us, brother, Kawhi. But I want to introduce Dr. Spirit to Jakira. So can you hold tight real quick?
yep.
Thank you very much, Kawhi. All right. So as you can see, it's a lot there, and that's why I wanted us to have one-on-one time.
A lot to unpack.
Because it is a lot to unpack. 6 years of marriage, a lot has happened. And, you know, honestly, I don't even know why I wrote down questions because I'm going to just let you,
Yeah.
even with
Okay.
Jakira.
So let me say this before you bring her in, because I can imagine that folks at home are falling out. Okay. I can
Right.
imagine that, oh, hell no. And folks is, ready to go. Right.
Right.
But what I want them to understand is that when you do this kind of work, there is no right or wrong in this situation. Okay. We have a whole family whose entire future lies in the balance.
Absolutely.
So what you are going to see from me is not me taking sides. How I'm going to strategize this is that neither of them are the problem. The problems are the problem, right? And so I was clearly identifying what some of those problems were.
Right.
Here is an individual who has experienced an entire history of childhood trauma, who caused him to unfortunately not deal with most of that, right? He didn't have the support that he needed. He met somebody who he thought, this could be my one. This could be the person that I can rest in. This could be the person that I can tell everything to, just not yet. Because he wasn't there with himself, and so unfortunately he wasn't there with her. We can lay blame every which way. That will not solve the problem tonight. Okay, so as you see me and as the audience sees me and they go, Spirit, you need to get him. Please understand that I am not going to get him because getting him is not going to solve anything. What I need is to help him understand the harm and the damage that he's done to his wife and for this family to figure out what their path forward is.
Man, thank you so much for
Okay.
breaking that down.
Because I don't want people to go, what is going on? She needs to tell him. There's nothing that I'm going to tell him that he has not already heard from her and that he has not already told himself 1,000 times. And so what this family is going to need is healing and a pathway forward. So that is what you guys are going to see. Okay.
That's fair. That's what's needed.
the
They got
master
3
heal-
babies.
Yes.
It's
That's
a
what I'm
family.
saying.
Right.
This is an entire family. This is a man who is going to have to explain to his 3 sons how they got into this situation, whether they go forward, whether they decide to co-parent, whether or not they will be able to co-parent. She has said things. Now, this is his one who has then turned around and crushed him because of her own pain. She doesn't know if she can be there, and we'll talk to her about that. But he said there's been things that she said. She's not the person that I knew her to be, right? So there is enough hurt to go around, and all of it is going to have to be healed if they can go forward.
And with that being the case, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Kawhi's wife to the stage, Jakira. Jakira, what's up with you, sister? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Oh, Jakira, can you move over just a tad bit so we can go ahead and see you?
I saw it.
There you
There
go.
we go. Jakira got that smile on.
Jakira, how you
We're ready
feeling?
for you.
I'm
How you
there.
feeling, sis? How you
I'm
feeling?
here.
Yeah, this isn't new for you. This is just the rehash. But you heard your husband. Are you pretty congruent in how you see things, or did you hear anything in what he told us that you said, well, that's not quite how I see that, or there's a little bit more to that story?
For sure. So the time frame, I don't know if I hear echo, my bad.
No, you're good.
So the time frame is a little different on like the kids, because our oldest was 3 at the time and Joseph was 2 and Jacob wasn't quite existing yet. And so I was told after, like you said, after having them, but there was always this part of me saying, oh, something's missing. Like, I don't know what it is. And it was just, I can't explain it. It was something. Like, I just couldn't.
What was missing? Part of you is like, I can't explain it. Girl, I know you have replayed this in your head a million times. What was missing, and when did you first feel like something is not quite? It's not quite right here.
Honestly, it was before we got married.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk about it.
Got married. I mentioned to him, and that's where we were about to like literally cancel the whole wedding. But
what did you mention? See, you guys, I don't want to do coded. I want to spell this out, because you guys cannot fix what you will not acknowledge. And so it is very important for us to recognize this is not about blame. This is how we got here, by avoiding, by using the coded language, by moving forward even when our intuition was telling us something is missing here. There are answers. This math ain't mathin'. Right? So I want you to be able to understand this, because no matter whether you go forward with him or whether you choose to go forward and wind up in another relationship with someone else, if you don't heal this, you will do the exact same thing again.
I totally get it. So yeah, I told and mentioned all the red flags. So far as the no affection, the communication, how we sleep, he sleeps on the couch, like things like that. And what else? It was just, I mentioned all of those red flags, and then I realized that we shouldn't probably be married until those red flags are addressed. Because I grow up and I have a family that have long, successful marriages, and you didn't enter them with red flag or that many red flags. It may have been like 1 or 2, but it was like they were working on it before getting married, if that makes sense. They were in counseling, seeking help before like tying the knot. So when I seen all the red flags, and then they're mentioning things that they're seeing and that they saw and all of that, so it made me address those red flags before like we got married.
Address, but not solve.
No, I just mentioned them hoping we was going to solve them, and that's why I mentioned we should postpone the wedding. But he was like totally against it. Like, no, we can fix these problems when we have more time being together, and we can still get married. Like, persuade me to like turn the other way, which is what I did. So I went with what he was saying, like promising we'll fix all these problems and address all the red flags. And I guess I was like easily naive, and I like went with it.
No, that's not naive. Now hold on, and I'm trying not to choke over here. That's not naive. What were you willing to do? You were avoidant. Why?
I was avoiding why. I guess because he's my first, so I didn't want to let him go. I didn't want us to end, and that was kind of like the ultimatum I was given. Either we get married, or like this is like the end of us kind of thing.
Sis, help me though. Your man is sleeping on the couch. There's no affection. There are things missing that tell you there are flags on the play. Your family is telling you there's something not right. And because he was your first, what was the story that you told yourself that said, I would rather stay in this as it is than walk away for something better?
And by the way, Jakira, I'm over here muting the background because there's a slight echo, so don't worry about the sound. I'll take care of that. But please answer the go ahead. You can answer the question.
Am I able to talk now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
go
ready?
ahead.
Yeah,
you
look,
good.
we're all with bated
you
breath.
can
I'm
talk
like,
the whole
help
time. You
me
good.
understand.
No. So the part, I guess, if we're going back to my childhood trauma, it was neglection. So with me being the oldest and my mom having a lot on her plate and taking in originally my cousin, but they're my sisters and brothers now because she fully adopted them. I got put on, like, I guess you can call it the back burner. And when it's your first child, you're a first time parent. As me being a first time parent, you're still maneuvering the ropes and learning how to be a parent and how to care for another being, another person outside of yourself. So, like, I totally understand. But to sum it up, yeah, I was the oldest. I guess I was put on the back burner as far as, like, affection wise, and I was getting it through my grandpa up until he passed away. And then it kind of was like, okay, now I really don't have that extra outlet that I couldn't get from my mom. I was getting it from my grandpa. So yeah, it was just neglection in that way. So that kind of actually is why I didn't really make a lot of friends, and I was bullied in high school and elementary, actually almost all my whole life until adulthood, 18.
And then comes this man who's showing you attention, who says, I feel something for you that I've never felt for anybody else. And that makes you do what?
I fell for it. Like I fell for it. Simple.
To the point that you were willing to just say, let me throw caution to the wind. No matter what, I'm going to be here. I'm going to say yes to this.
In a way, but so much as every time I addressed something, he gave me a good solution behind it, but never was the action put to it. It was just like a good, like I asked a question and he would answer it, and it would end like somehow. That sound real stupid. Yeah, so he'll give me a really good answer behind it, like far as what was the topic, some of the topics we had when we was working together. So he was such a like workaholic, his work ethics, all of that was like all attracted to me. And like I said, he showed consistency in the affection, and like up until like I left the job, then that's when it kind of went, the affection part kind of went inconsistent.
So let me ask you a question. From your perspective, is the reason for you all's divorce or your pending divorce, is it related to his bisexuality, or is it an amalgamation of other issues as well?
That was the breaking point. So I accepted and was trying to accept all the other problems and issues. That was just something on top of all the other issues. That was just like, that was what broke the camel back, I guess you could say.
What is it about that broke the camel's back for you, that says that that's just now this is where I'm done.
Because before he told me, it was a lot of lies and things that he did to cover up his story or him keeping that part from me. So when he did address him getting molested and his childhood traumas, the next day is when I asked all the questions. I didn't ask the questions the same day he told me. I showed compassion. I was just like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Now, however, I was considerate. I showed consideration, but I couldn't relate. So I was just compassion. That's all I can give, because I was sympathetic. I was like sympathetic to what he went through. I mean, I never been through anything like that, so I can't say I relate to it. I know it sucks to have to go through that and to still have to go about it all alone. I can only imagine that's even worse than just with help. So to do it with no help is just like, wow, that's amazing that you actually got through it and pushed through it. So the next day, however, I did ask questions, maybe the next day. So I asked those questions only because I was curious. And yeah, I was curious, but I also wanted to know if that meant he was bisexual or anything. So I was, in a way, hinting towards that, but he told me that he wasn't. So
wait, what do you mean he told you that he wasn't?
That he never slept with another guy outside his abuser and never was in any kind of relationship with any other men.
So at what point did he come back and say, I know I told you that I was not bisexual, but in actuality, I am.
It's when we moved to Memphis when he actually told me he was bisexual. And however, I didn't know it was when he was 60 years old that he found that out. I thought when he told me in Memphis, it was something that he uncovered himself. Like he came to terms and realized himself is when he told me. But he played the whole scenario of how I was going to react and what was going to be said and mentioned, and like literally playing all of it out in his head kind of thing.
Okay.
And then like the time frame of, I feel like even though he may not say it, but I feel like it was a rush on me accepting the news and being able to somehow pick up and move and be like, get back on track like I did with all the other things that he disclosed before dropping. I call it the B-bomb, so I'm sorry. It's still a tongue twister to get out because it's like, I get saying bisexual, he's bisexual makes it more real, but it kind of do something to like my heart to say it out loud kind of thing. I'm still processing it.
What does it do to your heart to acknowledge my husband is bisexual?
It's like a stab because it means like I really did not know him. Like that's not the man that I married. Like this person that he's just now disclosing to me is like a whole nother person. Like,
or is it the man that you married, but you just couldn't connect all the dots? Is the picture clearer for you now?
oh, it's most definitely clear for sure. And I feel like really, like I said, dumb is the term that came to mind because, like I said, I ignored all the red flags. And like I said, when he confirmed and told me that he wasn't gay and that it was just this childhood abuse, my problem that I did is I connected everything that went wrong, related it and tied it back to him being molested when he was younger. And that's what I'm in fault for.
Okay, so let me ask you, and I know that this is hard for you. Is the issue that he is bisexual even though he says that he has remained faithful? Is it I just absolutely don't want to be with an individual who identifies as bisexual? Or is the issue how all of this has come out? Or is there something else to all of this that makes you say, it's time for me to walk away?
The questioning, Dr. Spirit, it makes me question everything from the beginning, the middle, to now, to all the little incidents that, even though he told me it was nothing, that some part of me was like, well, maybe he ain't telling you the truth. And then now it makes me realize, oh, he probably most likely wasn't telling me the truth. And just so much stuff that I wish I would have verbally said, but I didn't know how and didn't want to tip him off the scale because I knew he dealt with depression, and I didn't want to be the one to tip him off the edge. I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I opened my mouth and questioned it, and he go and do something that's unsolvable that you can't bring back.
I'm sorry. Did he tell you that he would do that?
He's told me he's been suicidal. So have thought about what would life be without me, but I've never actually attempted. Unfortunately, I never attempted. So I can't relate to that. But to have someone say that they actually thought it out and planned it out and stuff like that, I don't want to be the tipping point that would make them go actually do it. Like,
okay,
I won't be able to live myself on that.
I'm curious, what is the story that you have told yourself that's the alternate version of you all's marriage? Because I heard you say, I started to think, I don't know who this person is and I really can't trust him. And all of the things that I thought was one thing, now I don't believe any of it. What is the story that you now believe about your husband, about yourself, and about your marriage?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Start over.
No, I'm just really trying to understand her question. So
you said, I don't believe any of it now. I don't trust him. I don't know him. I don't trust all the things that he told me. And so oftentimes when we don't trust what we heard and what we thought was the truth, then there's an alternate story, whether you realize it or not. So if you don't trust what he said, what do you now believe?
that all the scenarios that I played out in my head, as far as He used to hang out with these guy friends that he used to work with, and it was different than like just it was like literally hanging out with them, and it's just the random moment. Like he's spontaneous, I guess is the word. So I don't know.
You're mincing words. What do you believe? Do you believe that your husband has been having sexual relationships with men since you guys have been together?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Even though I know he told him, but it's the little things that before he told me that I just swept under the rug, I guess you can say, that I turned a blind eye and was just like, oh, maybe he just did that because he was molested as a child. And like I said, I tied everything that I should have questioned him about. I just kept turning it to what happened to him as a kid. And like I said, that's why I take fault on all of it, because I should have verbally said it, but like I said, I was really scared of maybe wording it wrong, saying the wrong thing that would make him go off the deep end part.
Okay. Well, it took both of you to get here, so I don't want you to take blame for all of it. There's enough blame to go around, but we're not here to blame. We're here to figure this thing out about where you guys go from here. So your husband says that what he is here for is closure. He doesn't think that the problems that you guys have had are so big that they can't be fixed. But if this is what you want, a divorce, then a divorce is what he's willing to allow you to have. He's not going to fight you on that. He's here to give you closure and to get some closure. What are you here for tonight?
I guess to see if I made the right move, but like I know part of me knows it's the right move and it should have been made versus like now. But I guess I'm trying to see how it's possible to co-parent, and also if what he told me was true, then there would be a part of me that would be open to some kind of friendship. But if not, then I'm just looking to possibly get a friendship, maybe. If not, how to go about co-parenting with our 3 children.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because if you already don't believe his word, are you somehow going to, as it relates to friendship, are you going to believe whatever he says tonight? And then if you like what you hear, then you'll say, okay, I will believe this and we can be friends, but I didn't believe what you said in our marriage, so we have to be divorced?
Yeah. And yeah.
Like make that help me connect that dot, because that doesn't add up for me. I didn't believe you in one situation or scenario, but I will believe you in this other. What makes these 2 scenarios different that you're willing to take him at his word tonight versus what you've heard in other places and at other points?
I guess hearing it from an expert, because like I said, I guess I did call it controlling, but I also now being on the outside look at it as a way of being, I wouldn't say narcissist, but like manipulation. So I don't want to, I guess hearing it from an expert, and if they believe his story, it'll make it more believable for me, I guess.
Okay, so there's some part of you that doesn't believe or trust yourself. You didn't believe your own intuition before you married him. You didn't believe your family when they told you. And I'm not here, I want to be very clear, I'm not here to tell you whether or not I believe his story. That's not for me to decide. And whether or not I believe it doesn't change the roles that you all have and what you have to do as a family. So what I want to do is be very clear about what my lane is. I can't offer truth. I can only help you all figure out what you want to do based upon how you both see your individual truths and what are the truths for your family as you go forward. Do I believe what he has said so far? Absolutely. Does A plus B equal C in this situation? Absolutely. You heard me talk about how childhood trauma, that is unresolved and unhealed affects us in adulthood, affects every relationship that we have. I am hearing the trauma bond tonight as you talk about how your trauma connected to his trauma, and you guys were both willing to let all of that just kind of sit in between and create the relationship between the two of you. None of that trauma has been healed or resolved, though, so that trauma still exists no matter how you choose to go forward. And so the question is tonight, when you talk about going forward in a friendship with him and in an amicable co-parenting relationship with him, do you have an idea what that friendship would look like?
Yeah, it'll kind of be like the friendship I wanted when I suggested it in the beginning, like where we can depend on one another if the other person needs it, and there's like no harsh feelings, no hate, no resentment kind of thing. It's like mutual and respected and like cordial kind of thing.
Okay. And you are 100% sure that you want to move forward with the divorce?
Yes, and like I said, I'm open to if it's something that you state that is mendable. It's just I have a hard time really truly believing he just now told me this because he tried to save the relationship. Because as he stated before, we weren't in a great place, but we were in a good place as far as we were communicating more. I was showing him the effort and what he needed from me.
Mm-hmm.
I was giving him more of that, and then I just feel, honestly, I feel like I was used from the beginning. Like I was his plot. Like he always wanted kids in the beginning. However, kids were part of my plan, and I did entertain that thought. We named the kids and everything, like you mentioned before. But however, it was like a timeline. Like I had kids, but they weren't like the immediate thing. Like I didn't push and like I didn't like make every moment about okay, yeah, I want kids, and like every move I was gonna make will be helpful for them, but I wanted to be established first before having the kids.
So you feel like you were pushed into having the family faster than you wanted to?
Yes, but in a way, like I said, it's my fault or not. I guess you said don't blame me, but I allowed it to happen, so I take the fault and blame it out. But yeah, yes.
Well, here's the thing that's kind of confusing for me, and I don't know if it's because you may be confused too, but I hear you go back and forth between, yes, I want to get divorced and I just want to be friends, but then I hear you say, well, but I mean, if there's something else that I hear, then I could, kind of figure out maybe if we could try to reconcile this thing. What are you on the fence about, and what is the information that you would need to hear with clarity tonight to help you decide, are we moving forward with a divorce, or are we trying to see if this thing can be reconciled and put back together?
I guess I'm looking for if it was intentionally. Like, is it really because of how I responded when he first told me, and that's what made him withhold it, or is it more to the story?
The word that's going to stand out for me so far tonight, gentlemen, is going to be grace. And I want both of you guys, and not the two of you, but the two of them, to really hear that word. Because one of the things that we don't do well in relationship, unfortunately, is to give our partners grace. And I recognize that this is a bombshell, right? Like most people could not survive this kind of thing. Although you would be surprised the number of people who can. But the real deal is that as we are continuing in our evolution as human beings, we are constantly meeting ourselves. We are constantly becoming stronger. We are constantly having resiliency. We are bouncing back. And so what happened was he found his forever person and thought, here is somebody that I can rest in. Here is somebody that I can tell my truth. You heard him say, she was the person that if at least somebody on this planet was going to know me, right? So what he wasn't able to get in his marriage, though, is grace. Grace for not knowing, grace for not being strong enough, grace for not knowing how to find the words, grace for not knowing how to evolve and come to a conclusion about where he is and who he is. He wasn't given grace. And she isn't giving herself grace either. That's why she keeps saying, I'll just take it all. I'll take all the blame. That's my thing, right? And so what we have to figure out in relationships, not just with the people that we love, but even with ourselves, is how do we give ourselves grace for evolving to be better versions of ourselves? How do we make space to embrace all of ourselves in our totality? And I tell couples all the time, when you get married, it's supposed to be forever, right? And we recognize that we are not perfect. So in your mind, you know your partner has imperfections. You know they have weaknesses. You know they have things that they're going to have to work on. But then when we actually see those things in relationships, we can't tolerate it. The moment we see the weakness, the moment we see the slip up, the moment we see the imperfection, we're like, see that right there? You got to get it together right now. But the reality is that if we're supposed to have forever, then that means that we are supposed to have our whole lives to try to be working on being the best versions of ourselves. And so here they are 6 years in going, it's just too much. It's too many things. There is no grace. There is no room for repair. But even now, she's still undecided. And so how do we help them slow this whole thing down so she doesn't feel the need to make a decision now that either she regrets later or that she backslides on later because she's still going to be interacting? So if she's on the fence, there's no need to rush to finalize a divorce. It is how do we slow this down and look at what the problems are to see if they can actually be solved. And then once they are solved, what do we want to do from here?
But see, this is the thing, because Dr. Spirit, I want to, is she really on the fence? Because it sounds like to some degree, you know, Jakira doesn't really trust her decision making. A large degree, she doesn't trust her decision making. But when you asked, you know, does she want to 100% move forward? She said yes. She did throw that but in there.
Big but.
She did throw a but in there because, like, yo, if you say anything, I'll be open to it because of the respect, reverence for you, and also the distrust for her own decision making. But do you really think that there's a possibility that she could actually put the work in, or these two can actually put the work into repair and move forward?
Yeah, well, let me say two things here. As a therapist, right, if they were actually in my office and we were actually doing therapy sessions, and this would not just be solved in one session, there's no way.
Right.
But if we were actually doing this work, it would never be for me to decide whether or not they should stay together. I never tell a couple, y'all not gonna make it. Y'all need to just go ahead and break up now. No, you need to go ahead and get a divorce, because I can't say that. One, I would be saying it based upon my own lens, and I don't have to walk in it and I don't have to live it 24/7 in your body, how you're experiencing it. So it's not my job to tell you whether or not you should stay in a relationship. It's my job to help you arrive at the conclusion of whether or not you want to. Do you have the motivation? And if you do you have the tools that it's going to take to make it work? Okay, so motivation and tools for both people at the same time is absolutely required. Okay. The other part of this is that what she's really going to have to do is recognize it's not just his stuff that's the problem. She has her own things, as you were talking about, that makes it difficult for her to show up in this relationship and advocate for herself, pay attention to her needs, have boundaries that are to be upheld and respected. But part of this is to have to do her own individual trauma work, because this is how they line up. So the real deal is, how do you help them understand who they both are as individuals? How do they introduce their entire selves to each other? Because they're still going to be co-parents, even if they're no longer going to be husband and wife.
Right.
And then how do they decide from there, do we actually want to be friends with each other? There's a lot of layers to this.
So let me ask you this now, because obviously we got one session with them here today. Where do you think would be the best place to leave them in this conversation, based on hearing both sides? Where's the best place that we can potentially leave them in a conversation here today for them to be able to have a bit more clarity in how they should move forward?
Well, you know, I think it's going to have to be some agreements between the two of them, and ultimately they're going to have to decide whether or not they believe those agreements, right? For her, she's looking for truth and honesty. For him, he's looking for closure. First, to give closure to her, and that sounds like maybe he's wanting to be honest with her.
Right.
But he's also looking for closure from her. Here's the hard part, though. He can be 1,000% honest, and ultimately the choice is still up to her whether or not she chooses to believe him, right? And so at the end of the day, it is what is she going to need in order to make a decision about accepting his truth for what it is. And she's saying, there's just things that haven't lined up for me. And so the hard part about truth is when you show it and you're transparent, you've got nothing else to defend it. I can only give you what I have. I can't make up something because then I'm lying to you. And so the question is, what is it going to take to rebuild the trust between them? Because right now there is no trust. But how can you rebuild the trust between two people when at least one or both people don't even trust themselves? Right? So to me, it is, what do they want to get to tonight? Even if it's just, can they get to a place that says, we don't know and we need to give ourselves more time? Right? Because I always tell couples, the whole idea about you file an action in court, yes, now that action is there, divorce is moving forward, but you are in control of that. You have the right to pull a petition at any time. You have the right to refile a petition at any time, but you do not have to let a system push you to somewhere that you don't want to be. So don't let attorneys push you. Don't let a judge push you. Don't let calendar dates push you. None of those things. If you recognize, I have done this wrong the entire time, right? She hasn't listened to her own clock the entire time. She let him force her. She let the family encourage things. She needs to get to the point where she can say, let me slow this down so I can find my footing. How do we figure out where we are going? And we will get there at a matter and at a speed that we are both accepting and okay with. They got to slow this thing down.
I got so many questions for Dr. Spear right now. Can we get the shout out to the episode sponsor so we can get to some of these questions I got?
Absolutely.
Is that cool?
Absolutely. So let's hit our episode sponsor before we go ahead into the next portion of this conversation here.
Delano, cue that overlay, baby. Shout out to Factor Meals, our episode sponsor for today. Let me tell you guys, Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your front door.
Guys, listen, you will literally receive over 35 options a week to choose from, including Calorie Smart, vegan, veggie, whatever you need. 2-minute meals. Fuel up fast with Factor's restaurant quality meals that are ready to heat and eat whenever you are.
What are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go.
Listen, guys, by the way, it's no prep, no mess. Factor's meals are 100% ready to go, heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or clean up needed at all.
Very important. I'm going to drop this link in the chat, in the description, and in the comments, guys. Head to factormeals.com/initiate50 and use code initiate50 to get 50% off. That's code initiate50 at factormeals.com/initiate50 to get 50% off. So check that out in the link, the description, and the comments.
That's a fact. They sent us them samples and the meals was good.
Y'all getting
They came in
50% off? 50?
Oh, we giving the family 50%
it's a deal.
off. Yeah.
And this is the thing, though. First off, we had to ask them for a lot of boxes, and we got the Lamo too because
Y'all got some in the fridge?
They're gone.
They gone.
They gone.
Yeah, they gone.
Yeah.
They gone.
The thing about me, I might drop 4 of them meals in a day. I go crazy.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah, we breaking all the meal plans.
Right. It's good. It's good stuff, though. It's good stuff.
Yeah, so go ahead and take advantage of that, guys. So that's in the description for you guys. 50% off. We only bringing our initiates deals, and we work something out with Factor to bring you guys that. So there you have it.
Now, okay, so Dr. Spirit, we get contacted by copious amounts of ladies with this fear or this issue that they might be having with dealing with the man, that they might be, some level of confusion or apprehension about their sexuality, right?
About the man's sexuality? Is she the beard?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that the amount of emails we get about that is incredible, actually.
It is.
But, I'm listening to Kawhi and Jakira about their relationship, and they have I think these are some standard issues that people might have. Maybe it's a lack of intimacy sometimes, maybe
not feeling connected,
maybe some stagnation, those types of things. Even with one or maybe even both of the partners dealing with some form of domestic or sexual abuse in the past. Like, these things happen in relationships. But I'm just curious about your personal opinion on this. does it make the situation that much different, or is there a level of amplification that, you know, you can't even comprehend solely because of it's possible that, or I guess because he identifies as bisexual? Is the sexuality take these issues that most relationships have and amplify to another level?
Well, you know, I think one of the biggest things is that oftentimes a huge myth, okay, we got to put this one out here. A huge myth is the assumption that because, particularly a male, because we don't have the same assumptions with women.
Right.
But when a man is somehow molested as a child, we automatically assume if he also identifies as bisexual or gay, oh, it's because somebody touched you. It's something that made you question your sexuality. And that couldn't be the furthest from the truth. There are plenty of men who are heterosexual men who are very sure of their sexuality who have unfortunately experienced sexual trauma or abuse. Okay, so I think it is a lumping all of these things together and looking for something to be a smoking gun to make it make sense. What you have is two individuals who have had a huge amount of childhood trauma. Any one of those things would have impacted their relationships. They did not do the work, which is why I stress so much the work is important. So they come into adulthood having, who knows, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, any number of issues that were not resolved, and then they're trying to be in relationship with each other. And so those things are affecting things. You heard her say, I didn't get the attention that I needed in my childhood. So as a result, the neglect left me wide open to a relationship. I didn't want to say no. This was my first sexual relationship. And so here she is settling for things, even though her own body is telling her, sis, this ain't it for you. This is not adding up to you. This doesn't make sense. This isn't the experience that you want. You don't like it like this. You really want it like this. And she did not have what she needed in order to take care of herself. And had she done that, he would have had to respond to that far enough out there for her to go, either he's going to conform and meet my needs, or I'm going to recognize that this is not him, right? Him, my forever. But she was so willing and so desirous of having somebody to want her that she was like, no matter what, I'm just going to go forward. I got a man now. But something has also shifted that she doesn't realize, because she's not keeping that. She's not consistent with that. She's not saying now, just keep going, just keep going. She's saying, maybe I would be willing to keep going if he was able to be honest with me. So there's still the I don't believe the backstories, right? Mm-hmm. And the question is, does she actually want to try to make this marriage work? Is she clear on what truth she would need in order to be able to make this marriage work? Or is she making an excuse to just say, it's been so much, I don't know what it is, it's all just problems, and I'm out of here?
Right.
Right. We have to get honest with ourselves. And oftentimes we will find the thing to help us leave. We don't need an excuse. We can simply decide, I'm done. I don't want to do this. And she can go ahead and get divorced. But I think that that's part of the closure and the honesty here. If she just has gotten to a point where she goes, listen, you are not who I want to be with. If I get honest with myself, this relationship was never what was going to meet my needs. I chose it because I didn't know how to choose me. If that's what the answer is, then she is the person who needs to also have some real honesty here tonight and not make him believe that it's his sexuality or that it's anything else that is the reason for her not staying.
So,
They
so you
both
think
owe each other some honesty here.
So you think that the sexuality may not necessarily be the actual
It may
reason.
not be. She's willing to stay. So we know that it's not. It's not a deal breaker for her.
Right.
But what I do hear is it's possible that this relationship never met her actual needs, that she settled for this relationship from a place of brokenness because he was the first person that showed her some attention and gave her the experience that she never experienced in her childhood. So she latched on to it. But now as an adult who has evolved, she is growing just like he is growing. She is a mother now. She has children. She has clarity. She has responsibility. She has backbone. She has things that she didn't have earlier in her life. So is this her kind of get out of jail free card to go, I didn't choose myself in the beginning either? Because see, trauma bonds, so they may be mirroring each other.
Right.
He wasn't living his truth. She wasn't living hers. And this may be the moment where she's recognizing something is different in me. And I don't know if I want to continue to stay in this relationship. When I look at you, not only are you not who I thought you were, but you're not really the person that is satisfying me either. And she may not even have the full clarity because she's like, something just isn't hidden, but she doesn't know what the something is. Is she disconnected from herself and who she is and what she needs to know whether or not she is actually compatible with him and this relationship in a way that they can go the distance and both be happy and satisfied?
Wow. No, I mean, that's an incredible breakdown and a way to look at it that I'm not even sure if Jakira had a chance to see it from that perspective, because I think it is much easier to, use all of those other reasons.
Yeah, because they're all
That's the
legitimate
reason.
reasons, right? Come on, who is going to look at her and judge her? Why did you get a divorce, girl? Because my man was bisexual. He lied. Oh, girl, high five. Let me help you. Right? We will rally to her. She is
That's
a
true.
victim in that space. There is no blame. There is no internal work that has to be done. But that's why I cautioned her very early in that if she doesn't do her own work and look at her own role and who she is in all of this, she will choose a similar relationship again.
Now,
She will choose again.
Understood.
you got Jakira on one end. She's saying, divorce. And then you got Kawhi on the other end saying,
She's saying divorce question mark.
question mark.
Question
Now
mark.
you got
Question
Kawhi
mark.
saying, hey, no divorce.
Kawhi is like, I never wanted a divorce.
Right.
Right. What I was actually trying to do was go deeper in the marriage. I was actually trying to do all the things that I didn't feel safe even earlier in the marriage doing. I was just going to be vulnerable and put my whole self out there. So what Kawhi said is, I trusted you enough to be more intimate. I trusted you enough to share the hidden parts of me. And what I got back was rejection. And not just rejection. Not only did you reject me, but you rejected the truths that I told you, and you made up an alternate story. So now you no longer believe anything about us. And that alternate story is what you are using to support your reason for leaving me.
Now, with Kawhi, and I'm curious to ask him too, I'm sure we got a bunch of questions for them.
Right.
Is it possible that he could be wanting to hold on to the relationship because he's not really ready to face, his true identity and kind of things that he wants to do?
Absolutely, because now I've told you everything, and I've already thought that you were my person, although he's shattered and she has wounded him in the same way that he has wounded her. So again, we have two people who are mirroring each other over and over. It's their stuff bouncing off of each other over and over in all of these ways. And so it becomes a real challenge, because one of the things that he would have to determine once he gets to see and understand who she is truly is he compatible with her? And would he want to do forever in a marriage with her as well? They both have to make that decision. But how do you make a decision about a forever with somebody that you don't know and you haven't seen yet? Neither of them have seen themselves
So it's
fully.
like, it's really, they just getting to know each other in the marriage.
Absolutely. They're just now getting naked.
Wow.
They are just now getting naked. And they don't even realize how covered up they are.
And that's just, and I think it's a lot of people like that, where you could be 6-7 years into a marriage and you still don't know who you married to.
Well, and I need people to understand that 6-7 years in a marriage is no time. If our story is 30, 40, 50, 60 years, 6 or 7 is a blip on a radar.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's a constant evolution, and it should be. We don't get into this enough. Right. And I don't have a lot of shoulds, but there should be an expectation that you are not going to be the same person 6 years, 10 years, 25 years from now as you are today, which is why our constant growing and communication and evolving together versus apart is so critical. That is how marriage works.
Man.
That's it. If you do it the right way, a marriage is going to grow you further than you ever thought you could grow. It's going to stretch you further than you ever thought you could stretch. It is going to pull things out of you and cultivate things in you that you never thought you were capable of, because it requires a different level of knowing, of patience, of that G word, grace, of acceptance, of understanding, of communication. It is a constant knowing and relearning and knowing again over and over for a lifetime. You have to stay curious about each other and recognize that who we are today may not be who we are tomorrow. So let's keep introducing ourselves to each other in order to make sure that we are traveling in the same forever.
Incredible. So I want to continue the conversation. I know Kawhi's been backstage, but what I actually want to do is bring Kawhi back here to the stage. Actually, both of them, everyone's on the stage now. And just for context, just so you guys know, this is a very emotional situation, because when you reached out to me, you guys were all actually separated at the time. And, you know, you were not necessarily, I don't know, the communication was rocky. You know, you guys weren't on good terms, but obviously, again, you reached out because you wanted answers and you wanted things to, you know, be better. But as you can see, when you heard Jakira speak and when you heard those things that she communicated, has she ever communicated those things to you like you heard her communicate to us, or is a lot of this new information that you're just discovering?
Everything she said, she have said before, exactly verbatim. Many times we have had this conversation many times, but I've always ran into the roadblock that she doesn't believe me, and I can understand why. I understand the hesitance, but even to this day, even when she stated it, just to know that no matter what I say to you, you're not going to believe me. And that got to the point that I could no longer talk to you. I could no longer even talk to you face to face. I started writing letters just to express how I'm feeling. That's what initiated me initially telling you, because every conversation we will have will get turned back to something I was doing wrong, I could never bring any problems up without it getting turned back to say what I'm doing wrong. I identified early on that I was doing a lot of things wrong, and that's why I shifted to try to educate myself about marriage, because I didn't know. It was my first marriage, my first time being a father. It was a lot of my firsts also. So when I didn't know something, I didn't have too many people to call on that was successful marriages. So I turned to podcasts, books, just any and everything to learn about marriage. And I tried to bring that all to the relationship. I tried to introduce, that's how we introduced to probably 90% of the couples, like married couples that we watch or we started watching to this day. Even coming upon the podcast, I introduced it to her in efforts to save the marriage. Maybe listening to other couples will help us get through some of these problems that I feel we could have resolved if we would have just talked about it or brought up early on in the relationship versus sitting on it for many years. I answered most of all her questions the best of my ability. I answered them true, but each time I answer them, she'll answer it in a different way. I give the same answer. I can't answer it no other way. I tried turning it, changing the words to the point I've asked her, what do you want me to say? Because I can't change it to no other answer. I'm telling you the truth. It wasn't my intention. I just did not know how to tell you, and I didn't want to be rejected. I felt like I found my person. I wanted to be with you. I laid out the life that I wanted to give you. I wanted to give you the house, the cars, everything. I tried to get to know you, everything about you, even the requirements that I asked from you. I only asked you to help out around the household. Even at the end, in the counseling, what was the requirements for you to take care of yourself, for you to make sure your health is well, your mental health, your physical, everything, take care of yourself. I didn't no longer require you to or expect you to do anything around the house. I didn't expect you to help out with really anything. Everything that I was expressing that I needed from you, I got to the point that I no longer expected it.
Okay, Kawhi, I want you to pause for a second, because your wife had a really strong reaction that said she doesn't see that the same. So I want to make sure that she's still with you in that. And I want to hear from you, okay, because look, and that face is saying it too. So what is it that you are not saying that your face is telling us that is different in how you see what Kawhi is saying?
All of it was based off his timing. So when he said help him out around the house and everything, it was based off his timing of when he expected things to be done.
So does that mean, is the issue then not in what he's saying, but that one of the problems was that your husband was not sensitive to you? That he was not moving at your pace or taking you into real consideration?
That's hands on. That's on the
Okay.
on the now.
So help me, because there's a disconnect between the two of you then, and I want to pull both of you back up on the screen if I can see both of you. And Kawhi, I want to make sure, so I can see your face, because the micro expressions matter. There's a disconnect between the two of you, because I hear you as his wife saying, he didn't consider me. He didn't consider how fast I needed to move. He didn't consider what I needed or wanted in the space. But I've heard Kawhi say multiple times tonight, I kept asking her to connect, to initiate, to get involved so that it wouldn't, at one point, one of us had to take the lead so that we wouldn't be stagnant. Where is the disconnect and the breakdown in how the two of you are seeing how your marriage has been flowing?
Can you say it again? I'm kind of confused a little bit.
It's okay. You all don't see how your marriage has been moving the same way. I heard you say that he has not made space for you to move at a pace that's comfortable. But I also heard him say he has asked you multiple times to plug in, and when you couldn't or you wouldn't, that he actually stepped up to make decisions even though he didn't want to because you wouldn't. And I'm wondering, how do you guys see this part of your marriage and your relationship so differently?
Okay, how I see it and how I presume it to play it out, or how I see it played out, is yes, he did ask me, and when I did tell him, it was more so, okay, but why do it have to be this way? Why can't you do it at this time when it makes more sense? And I don't know if I disclosed it, but I suffered from narcolepsy. So it's like a sleeping disorder. Mm-hmm. So my time schedule and everything is backwards and different. And with having kids, it really altered it. Each pregnancy, it altered it in a different way. Whether I gained more time in certain areas or lost in others. Pregnancy I didn't have a regular routine. So, And mind you, with being pregnant and nursing, you can't be on the medication that I had before meeting him, because you can't be pregnant and nursing. It's just, you can't do that. So when I did have the time, it would be based off when I had that extra energy besides working and taking care of the kids. It'd be on my time frame. And unfortunately, with me relearning my sleep schedule and sleep pattern, I didn't know that until when it happened. So when I did do the chores and things around the house, I told him, okay, this seemed to be the time frame. Mind you, I get pregnant again, that time frame changed and everything. So I was honest about that before we even dated, tell him about it. But mind you, it was under control due to being medication. So when he asked and I told him the answer, that answer that wasn't good enough for him. He wanted it a different time frame. Or he wanted it at a different time. And I give you an example. Far as laundry, I could fold and wash if it's a lot, but I can wash and dry the same day, but I wouldn't fold it the same day. And waiting more than 3 days was a big issue. 2 to 3 days would be a big issue for him. And
knowing y'all got 3 small kids and you have a medical condition. So for you, do I hear you say, is what you're saying, my husband had unrealistic expectations for what I was able to do, given not just the pregnancies, but also my medical condition? He wasn't sensitive to that and he wasn't accepting of that?
Right. And mind you, I stayed at home with the kids, taking care of the kids as well.
Okay. But Kawhi, I saw you shaking your head while she was saying that. So you don't see that the same way?
No, ma'am. So I'm just going to jump to each child, just at least the first two, or at least the first one. When we had our first child, I actually hired her family member, her niece, and my goddaughter to come to the house to help her out with the children. We helped her out with KJ. That was our firstborn. I always identify her narcolepsy, even from day one. I researched and looked at videos to understand what it was. I never heard of it. I never dismissed her health. I always tried to get her to prioritize her health, because I can't go to the doctor for you. I can't force you to go to the doctor. I can't force you to even see if they have alternative meds or anything over the course of our marriage. Like she said, I never witnessed her being on the medication, never through the course of our marriage. I never even told her that it was a problem. If it could have been a different schedule, please tell me what that schedule could have been. I laid out that we wash clothes on Wednesdays and Sundays. That's 2 days in a week. I wasn't pressuring you to fold up the clothes the same day. I will always wash the clothes. All you had to do was fold. That's it. That was the agreement we made early on in our relationship. It wasn't that she washed the clothes and folded. It has never been that way. It always been I wash and she folds.
Okay, but you said that you guys established that at the beginning of the relationship. So that's before she comes off the medication. That's before there's child 1, 2, and 3.
She never been on the medication while we were together. I don't recall her besides the early dating stages. But from the time we got married to the time now, I have never witnessed her on this medication.
Right.
So
My question is different, though. My question is different, though, Kawhi. My question is about flexibility in marriage. So yes, what you guys planned in the beginning, in application, there was no babies. There was no coming off of the medication. There were no adjustments that needed to be considered. So what I'm asking is a different question is, do you think that you all had a good amount of flexibility in your marriage to meet the reality of what your situations were? Or were you trying to stay in the box of what you agreed to in the ideal situation? And is that part of what's causing some conflict and some hurt feelings or even some angry or resentment, some resentful feelings between the two of you?
I'm not saying it doesn't. It's not. I'm just saying the conversation was never had. We never sat down and said we need to readjust the schedule. Even the time that we did sit down and say we need to readjust it, we would never be able to come up with a schedule. We just never will be able to come up with a schedule. I even gave it to her one time and said, make the schedule, because we need to be on some type of routine with children, because the house will go down if we not keeping up with it. It was just the household duties that I'm asking for. Because I'm working, I'm coming home and trying to clean up and do this, and that, cook dinner and all that. I understand you may have had a hard day. I'm not kicking that at all. I was a stay-at-home dad for a portion of our relationship many times when I was unemployed. So I can understand. I helped with the potty training, all that. I can understand the burden of the household duties. I never dismissed that. If the schedule needed to be changed or adjusted because she worked third shift and I worked first, we was never really on the same schedule. So I always knew something had to change and something needed to, because it would never add up. She was sleeping during the day. So I can understand why you couldn't fold up the clothes. I can understand you had a rough day with the kid. I never dismissed none of that because I could fully understand. We never had the conversation. That's what I'm saying. The communication was one of our major issues. We never could talk.
Yeah,
the conversation will either get cut off or taken over by one person or get turned around where it goes left and we're now mad or even worse than where we started.
Exactly.
That was one of our major issues. We could never talk.
And
we could
Ryan,
never connect. We couldn't connect in that instant.
Let me jump in here real quick, Kawhi, if I can. Ryan, this is an example of those early marital problems that you were talking about. Right. Like how much of this is the sexuality issue and how much of this is just a newlywed couple trying to find their rhythm and they don't have the skills to find their rhythm. This is an actual problem that they never solved. And so over time, now we have resentments, now we have frustration, now we have my version and your version. My version is I tried to tell you and you just didn't listen and you just didn't care. So now how I feel about you not listening to me and not caring about me, especially if as the woman, neglect is already in my trauma history. So now I feel further neglected and triggered. So now I'm going to withdraw. And here you are on the other side going, you're not giving me anything. You're not telling me anything. I'm trying this. I don't know anything else. And when I try to lay out something else, you won't plug in. So now you're frustrated and you're resentful. And we go back and forth and it just becomes the argument in the entire marriage until we choose to do something about it or walk away.
Wow.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
You know, when I'm hearing this, because we went from the highs of the major things that were causing issues or were some of the reasons they were having problems, and now we're even at the nuances of household chores.
Well, can I let you in on a secret?
What's that?
It's never the highs. People think it's always the big explosions. They always think it's the big boom. It's the bomb. It's not. People can work through those. The things that people always say, I wish he would, and the claps and the necks and the men, yo, bro, ain't no way. Those are the things that they sit on the couch and they cry about and go, you broke me, yo. You broke me. I would have given you everything. And then you get into the work and they still will. It is the death by 1,000 cuts that end a relationship. It is the things that say, I cannot go on because I have lost hope and faith that you and that this will ever be different. And so I have to choose that if I even have the possibility of getting the things that I want, if it even is a slight possibility, then I have to choose my freedom because I don't think that I can get my needs met here. And that's what they're arguing about. I know in the beginning it probably sounded like, "Ooh, this is going to be good. It's going to be big. It's going to be juicy," right?
Right.
That's what TV and radio wants you to believe. That's the flash. That's the entertainment. That's the show. But when you get into the business of a couple, when you get past all the fluff and it is two people doing the best that they can, trying to have a human experience with each other. And it is really the daily, I don't feel seen by you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you with me. I don't trust you with my heart. I don't trust you with my needs. I don't trust you with the experience in the future that I want to have. That is what breaks couples up.
So, Jakir, I want to ask you this one here because to Dr. Spirit's point, do you feel, based on this conversation and what you know about Kawhi Pryor, that he is willing to change into the husband, or you guys are willing to grow together and he's going to do the work to be the husband that you can spend the rest of your life with?
No. I say that based off our prior talk that we had with one another when I made my decision, but then I came back, was like, is there any way possible? And he told me how he see his next relationship and what he wanted. And I knew that wasn't part of my core values and wasn't something that that's not something that I could have lived with and agreed to. So knowing that if that is still something that he strongly is for, I already know my decision still it didn't change.
And I'm curious to know, because I know you said that moment of understanding his sexuality was the straw that broke the camel's back. I get that. But do you not feel like at that point there was anything he could have done to reconcile the relationship, or were there things done after to further cement your ideas that you had that you couldn't fix this relationship?
It was things that was done, after he told me. Well, I guess it was before he told me.
Well, I think, and that's the biggest thing, though, that I just heard was, and this is the critical question that every couple has to ask themselves. She just said there is something fundamentally that he wants for his life as he moves forward that just is not compatible with who she is and what she wants. And that is what couples really have to take a look at, because it's when I look at my version of forever and you look at your version of forever, does our life together make room for both of our versions in a way that we are going to both be happy and be able to thrive? But if you are going to get your needs met at the expense of me, or I'm going to get my needs met at the expense of you, this may not be the best relationship for us, because one of us is always going to either be suffering or both of us are going to be suffering because we're going to be trying to pull each other towards the forevers that we want. And so what she's saying is very critical. This is a potential deal breaker, right? That whatever it is, and I don't know if they feel comfortable sharing that, but he has told her that there is something that I want in our relationship as we go forward, that for her, she's saying, absolutely not. That does not work for me. And she has the right to say that. And they both have to be honest with each other. Otherwise, they'll just be living a lie, and they will be right back in this place later with older kids having to explain all of this all over again.
I'm curious to know this too, though, because I feel like just in general, it seems like the men are typically the ones that will stay in a relationship, and you let me know if this is correct, but it seems like men will just be willing to stay in a relationship unhappy just generally longer than a woman typically would. And I can imagine in this relationship, from what I hear, y'all are separated. It's not intimate in the relationship. You're sleeping on the couch. Y'all not having good communication. I can't imagine that your needs as well, Kawhi, are being fulfilled. So why is it that at this point of you not being fulfilled, you're not really getting your needs met at this point? Would you still see yourself being able to fight for this marriage? What is it that you see that you say this is willing to fight for?
I'm gonna try to sum it up real quick. The problem I have when she brought up the topic, this was the past January, this was about 2 months ago, on relaunching or trying to work on the marriage. We tried one attempt, I say that was October, November, went to counseling, tried to work on it. We laid out what each person needs. Neither one of us, I say, held to it. And I put a timeline on it because I said we need to work towards something. We need to have something to check in on every 30 days, every 60 days to make sure we're going in the right direction. The only thing that plays in my head from when we had marriage and counseling before we got married with a pastor that said every year his wife changed. Every year he had to relearn his wife. Every year they became different versions of themselves. That he had to relearn his wife every year. And that's what I looked for. Maybe I was wrong for looking for the change in her. Maybe I was wrong for looking for the growth. But I still see the potential. I still see where we could be if all of these unspoken things were said early on.
Well, wait a minute. You mentioned unspoken versus spoken, though, Kawhi. Your wife has said that there is something very clear that you have spoken to her.
Oh, this was recent. This is very, very recent, and it was laid out on the basis of what is changing in the relationship. When I asked that question, what are we starting over on? I made it clear we could no longer start on what we left on. We had to start something completely new because all of the hurt and all of the stuff that we went through, we cannot start back over on that. So we got to start over on something new. What will that be? What did that look like? I asked the questions of what do she see in me? Why did she want to be with me? Because now I'm curious, because if you saw the story of our marriage going the way you perceived it in your head, you should hate me right now. That's how I felt. I will hate the person that I'm married to. I will not want to have anything to do with them. That is what I'm hearing her say when she tells me the story of our marriage. I would not want to be with that person, have anything to do with that person. So I asked the question just to see if there's anything to stand on. I could not get anything that says, okay, this is how I want to move forward in marriage. Maybe we need to try something different. So I pitched ideas. I asked her to pitch ideas to me. So something for us to move forward. I was open to all of that. I pitched friendships, different ways of us living in the same house, playing roommate, anything just so we can go forward in some form. Maybe we just wasn't meant to be.
So are you saying you're not clear then? You're not clear on what this thing is for her that is a deal breaker?
I'm gonna try to say it clearly. I just want to know what is changing. Is what do you need from me? What do you see in me? So we'll know that we're choosing each other for the right reasons.
Okay, wait. You're saying that your wife is willing to leave you because you asked her what is changing? What is it that you see in me? It's a deal breaker for you to ask her that? That's not making sense, Kawhi.
No, it wasn't that. She asked for us to start over on the relationship January. The divorce was already filed in December. We fully separated in November. That's when I sent the initial email to Harley Initiative. So come January, she sends a message that initiates us to have a conversation. In that conversation, I ask questions. What do you see in me? Why do you want to be with me? And what are we starting over on? What are we starting on? Like, what is the basis? Because of everything I learned said we need something to stand on for us to move forward. We can't just start saying we're going to work on a marriage, move back in with nothing changing. we needed something so we're both on the same page at the beginning. In the process of getting the answers, I wasn't getting the answers. I was getting that we're starting over where we left off. I said, that's not good. We left off very, very bad. Let's figure out something else. We pitched many different ideas to each other, and none of them worked. We both said no. No, to admit. And like I said at the beginning, I want to be with her. I only see a future with her. I saw all our problems able to be resolved easily by just having a conversation and understanding each other. But if she can't believe nothing I say, it's nothing I really can do.
Well, let's pause then. Let's pause, because either you don't know something that you really need to know. Your wife has a deal breaker on the table that she is saying that you said to her about the future that you want. And you seem to be totally like out to lunch on, I have no clue. Like I've asked you 3 different ways, and you're missing the reason your wife says that she cannot go forward. So if you don't get anything else tonight, I think the most important piece of information that you would need is, why can't my wife go forward? Because I've told her something that in her mind is a deal breaker for her, and you need to be able to know what that is. So I'm curious if his wife is willing to say, and if she feels comfortable saying, what the deal breaker is for her, because he doesn't even know why
I know. I'm sorry, I misheard.
Oh, do we know? So
Yeah.
now wait.
Yeah.
So now we know. How did we miss that?
Somebody got to fill us in.
So I
'cause-
misheard the question. Yes, I
Okay.
know what it was. I laid out, one of the options was a poly relationship. She shut
Okay.
that down, said, no, that's not something she want to do. We pitched the monogamy relationship to each other and what that would consist of. We both said a lot of things need to change. We could not agree on any way of moving forward.
Okay, so now
that's when we both
Kawhi, now
decided-
pause, because now we're getting into some of the things that perhaps your wife talked about. Do you remember when we started this conversation and I asked you, even though you were bisexual, have you chosen to remain monogamous, and is that your desire as you move forward in the marriage? Do you remember
Yes.
me asking you that?
I'm open to both. That's what I'm saying. I pitched
No.
different ideas.
See, that's like me saying I could have kids or I could not have kids. Do you see do you see the expression that your wife is making?
No,
Let me paint.
100%.
No. Well, then let me paint the picture for everybody else if you got it. Because if you got it, and yet this is how you're moving, and your wife is already saying she doesn't know if she can trust you and stand on anything that you say, and then you continue to vacillate back and forth, I don't really think that you got it. And this is really important, okay? Because you can't tell somebody one thing and then switch it up on them again later on. You've already pulled the rug up from under her. You already have made her believe that everything that she knew about you was a lie. And then you continue to go back and forth and say, listen, I can be monogamous if you want to. What do you think about being poly?
Hold on, wait. I want to
you
make
can't-
it clear that we both pitched different ideas of that. She said open relationship, I said poly. We were both pitching ideas to each other. That's it. We never initiated anything.
Bruh,
We
let
was
me just tell you, with
ideas.
love, you aren't in a situation where you can pitch a
Yeah, I
poly
understand.
or an
I
open
wasn't
or a
there at
possibility.
all. Yeah, I definitely wasn't there at all because, like I said, the divorce was filed. I thought we was moving forward and it was closed. I opened the door for the conversation just to really hear her out, even when I spoke to her, just to get clarity on what you're meaning. Like, where is this even coming from? Because you have made it clear you don't want to be together. You filed a divorce and we're moving on. It just was clarity on my end to understand, am I missing something? Is something changed for you to want to be together? That's what initiated all those questions. I threw that out there just to see, because she said open relationship. I wanted to know, what do that even mean?
Okay,
That's
so
when I
for
said poly.
you were trying to explore every option, every avenue, leave no stone
together.
unturned in how we stay together. So now then, let me ask your wife a question. Wait, let's bring her back because I need to see her. Now, I want to know, and I want you to pause for a second. Don't just say the first answer that comes to your mind, but I really want you to do a gut check with yourself, okay? In your conversations with your husband, have you been testing him to see what he would say? Have you thrown stuff out there that you know that you would never be open to, just to see if he might be open to some of these things?
Great question.
Clarification. I always
Clarification. Like,
so like when he said poly, like open relationship, because I didn't know what it meant. So I did say open. I said poly, like open relationship, like 3 with 2 wives or a man with 2 wives. Kind of. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what poly meant. So yes, I said that. But I was like poly, like open relationship, poly, like poly. And then he broke it down to what poly meant, and then I was just like, so that's like an open relationship, right? And then
so you're saying you never suggested it, you never threw it out there. He threw it out there, and you were just trying to make sure that you understood what he was suggesting.
Correct. That's exactly what happened. And the things that I pitched was on how we can possibly mend and fix us on like the trust, rebuilding the trust, actually doing the things as far as like our core values, actually the stuff that I tried to initiate in the beginning that I didn't stand strong with, like all the red flags that I knew was missing, trying to correct those and making sure that we get on track with those and correct the red flags if we're able to correct them, and then establish, like basically literally starting all over. When I came to him, I never wanted to start back where we left off. I mean, I knew I was not even in the beginning, but I knew I needed a change, and I know we needed a change. So I knew when I brought it to him that I didn't want the same relationship that I just was willing to divorce you of. I mean, I wanted something different, something new, something that I know I should have held strong to in the beginning, and it could have most likely avoided all of where we at, the turmoil that we in now. So I was just trying to basically start over fresh and create what I knew I should have stuck strong to in the beginning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, let me say one of the things that you guys, I would strongly encourage you to do at some point is to actually come to some conclusions about what the picture of forever looks like, whether that's together or apart. You guys throw all these things out to each other, and because you don't trust each other and you guys are going through your own traumatized filters, how you see reality and how you see reality is very different. Right. So in one breath, I'm just asking for clarity. In the other breath, it's no, you were saying that you might be open to this. You don't see these things the same. And then you use those, you weaponize this misunderstanding between the two of you to just kind of do whatever it is that you want to do. The real deal is you have to be unafraid to sit down and have some real mature conversation, to say, let me just tell you about the life that I want to live. This is what my idea of a future looks like. Show me yours. And now let's look at those as objectively as we can in order to decide, can we and do we want to do this together? You guys don't even know what you want. You're just throwing out all these possibilities of how could we make it work? I don't think I could. And then you walk away leaving each other open. That's why you want the closure, because you don't have any clear understanding of what the other person is really trying to do. But it's not closure that you need, it's clarity. Closure says the end, it's done, that's it. You haven't even gotten to the clarity to even have some full understanding to say, let me sit with that and see how that works for me. Let me sit with that and see how that works for our boys. Let me sit with that and see how that works for you. Let me sit with that and see how that works for us collectively as a family. You guys are so busy rushing to get to the end that you haven't even really understood the beginning. And the future is not yet written. So like, what are we doing?
But it's very difficult to achieve clarity when two people are not able to communicate.
Well, it's very difficult to achieve clarity when clarity isn't the goal. They're sitting down in front of each other having conversations with no goal in mind. So there's no destination to get to. There's no framework to stay in. There's no way for us to know when we're getting off target. We're moving away from the goal. And so that's why I started off by asking them tonight, what is the goal? Because everything that you do, everything that you think, everything that you feel is either going to take you towards that goal or away from it. And if we're not clear on what our goal is, I may be working towards one and you may be working towards something completely different in the same conversation, which is why so often couples think that they're having the same conversation and they're not. They're arguing about two different things. That's why I kept coming back going, wait, slow down. I want to make sure that you heard that. Okay, so let me make sure that there is this, because it wasn't clicking. It was, we were in two different places having the conversation, and we have to come together on the same page to be talking about the same thing before we can come to a conclusion.
So the goal that both Jakira and Kawhi should be looking to achieve here is clarity, is what you're communicating.
It's clarity. She can't make a decision about whether or not she wants to move forward because 3 minutes ago she said, well, he told me that there was a deal breaker that I can't deal with. And he said, I never said that that was a deal breaker. I was just throwing out what we could do in order to make the marriage work. Like, what did you need in order to feel comfortable? And she said, well, when he said it, I was like, so does that mean this or does that mean that? And then she concluded that won't work for me. But he literally said, I never said that's what I wanted. I was asking you if that's what you needed in order for us to make this thing work.
Now, Dr. Spirit, is that ideal for Kawhi to communicate these level of options, or is it more healthy for him to decide what is the ideal relationship that he wants, and then that's the one that he tries to pursue?
Yeah, but I'm not clear whether or not he actually knows what he wants, because to go back to the question that Ryan asked about men typically not initiating divorces, and by the way, you didn't ask the question that way, but that is the answer, that women overwhelmingly in the United States at least are the people who initiate most divorces. And they tend to be the ones that have lower rates of marital satisfaction. A lot of that has to do with all the roles that women are typically playing in marriages, but also too, as men, you guys are conditioned to be less emotionally connected, right? So people think it's just that men are simpler. It's not that. But you guys look at things and go, that's not really that big a deal. You've been conditioned to endure. So you look and go, that problem is not really a problem. I'm cool. Like, as long as you do this with the kids, as long as you can get this done, this done, this done, we can kick it like this, I'm good. And then you look and you say, well, what is it that you need? And she'll go, page 1, page 2, page 3, 4 hours later, page 997. And he'll be like, well, damn.
Right.
Where's my damn thing? Right? Like, you got a lot of needs, right? And so what we look at is women often are the ones who are less happy in the marriage, but also men have to plug in emotionally in order to make sure that they actually are getting some needs met. And oftentimes they don't know that they have them because they're just totally disconnected. It's like I can't say it all, but the feed me.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's, that. And it's like, as long as you do that for me, then that's enough. But if you actually start to have a man plug back into himself and see his humanity, he will rediscover that there's a whole lot about who he is and what he could actually need and want to be satisfied.
That's a good point, because Kawhi, you started this conversation coming in saying that you are pretty much facing, or you have faced, an identity crisis. And I completely get it. Being confused about your sexuality, that can be very confusing about, the partner you want, the life you want to live, who can I trust with this information? And with an identity crisis, I can imagine it's hard to even envision your future without really knowing who you are and what exactly you want for yourself. So would you say that this monogamous relationship, if you're being 100% honest with yourself, this monogamous relationship with Jakir is your ideal picture of what you want to build moving forward long term?
A monogamous relationship, definitely. I just don't know what it will look like with Jakira. I don't know if this is even something that she will be willing to work on. That is the main question. I don't know if the work
I'm really isolating it to you. Just for you though, brother. Like, not even what she wants. Just for you though. Is that really what you want?
Yeah, because there's a deeper, the part of this that has to be considered is, here you are having a whole part of yourself and a whole part of your identity that you haven't had the opportunity to explore. Right? Mm-hmm. And so at this point in your life, you are committing to monogamy with a woman, but you haven't even explored this idea of who I am in relationship with men, being attracted to men, having desires to have intimate relationships with them. And so, I don't want to think
that's an assumption, though. I think that's an assumption.
That what?
Have you explored?
Have you explored?
Yeah, that's why I say I've had a part of your life before we got together. That's why I said at the beginning, where I've had a relationship with men and women. So
in your teenage years, though, right? You said as a teenager.
Early 20s. No, that's when I identified. When I found out that when being molested wasn't a good thing, or going through everything I went through wasn't right. That's when I found out around 13, 14 that I was actually molested and that it was wrong. I didn't know that prior to moving away from my molester, like moving to a whole nother state where I was disconnected from this person. That I realized that it was even a problem. And that was when I was a teenager, like 13, 14, around that age. That's when I went through trying to figure out, is it right or wrong? So about 16, after going through therapy, counseling, and going through all the depression, that's when I put a label on it. I'm gonna say it like a label. That's when I slapped a label on it. And I did pursue it my late teens, 17, 18, 19, all the way up until we got together.
Until
So
what age?
I've
What age
had
is that?
prior relationship. Say that again, I'm sorry.
What age is that? You said all the way until you guys got together. How old were you?
24, if I'm not mistaken, 23, 24 was around that time where we got together.
She said 25. Okay. And see, and for clarity, just so you guys know what I mean, I'm not asking did he ever have sex with a man, because he understands that he's bisexual. I'm talking about what it means to be in a healthy, intimate partner relationship with somebody, right? So think about who you were at 19, 20, 21, 24 dating somebody versus how you look dating in your 30s.
Completely different.
There's a different level of intimacy. There's a different desire around relationship. So when you ask him the question, like, does he know what he wants for the rest of his life? That I'm asking, not just do you have a desire to have sex with another man? I'm asking, are you sure that you want to be locked into a monogamous relationship with this woman for your entire life when you have not explored who you were as a healthy, functioning person?
Yeah.
Right? Him getting out there in his early 20s was just the backlash of, oh my gosh, all of these things happened to me. Now I'm having this trauma-based response. Now let me go out here and start having sex with men. That is not the same as I'm a healed person wanting to connect in my humanity to someone else. Like, does he know enough about where he is to be able to say to this woman who may plug back in, right? Because if he breaks her heart twice and they still have children and have to be in relationship, and he says 5 years from now or 10 years from now, I know what I said back then. But if I'm being honest, there was part of me back then that knew that maybe I wanted to, because we've already had that conversation. So I'm trying to cut that same wound off at the pass, if any of that exists now within him, because he couldn't express that before.
Right.
So in his own contemplations, is he having those questions? Is he considering that? Has he actually come to a conclusion on that? It's important.
It's important, and that's what I'm thinking about. And I'm sure that's what his wife is thinking about as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because if you have went the majority of your life, keeping this to yourself and not addressing those wounds and that trauma and all the things that happen, or just being open to express your own sexuality. It doesn't change when somebody hits you with divorce papers. You still haven't had ample opportunity to go down that route and be honest with yourself. So I do think it's possible that, really both of them really have to decide if this is something that they actually want.
And real talk, whether it's rational or irrational, there's no judgment here. But the reality is that most people do not want to be in relationships with bisexual partners. And for them, the wound of them being with someone of the same sex hits differently than with them being with someone of the opposite sex. Okay, so she may say, the real deal is I don't want to be in a relationship with a bisexual man. The idea that my man might sleep with another man in our marriage might kill me. She might be totally fine. She wouldn't like it, but she might be able to recover in their relationship if he cheated on her with a woman. But will she be holding her breath in a different kind of way for their entire marriage, hoping that he never steps out to sleep with a man? And if he does, would that crush her in a different way? See, these are real conversations that they have to be able to have in their marriage, because if they can't have these conversations, there will be no real intimacy or safety or trust between them. And then they will have this lackluster marriage, and they'll get to the end of their lives regretting that they said yes and stayed in this, knowing decades before that they should have left. They have to really be able to consider all of this and have some real mature conversation about, obviously, I don't know where the future leads, but I can tell you where I'm thinking and where I'm oriented to now. If we can create the right container of safety that lets us have those real conversations.
What I'll say to Kawhi, man, is because I can imagine this is like a huge deal for you, for somebody who's dealt with an identity crisis, who's dealt with, child molestation, who struggled to be honest with his wife about this and to come on Harlem initiated and share this. I can imagine you have, matured to some level with, your identity to say that I'm going to be open and honest and real on this platform and share, which I have, a great degree of respect for, because this is a very honest version of yourself and a lot more of an honest version of yourself than Jakira saw years back. Mm-hmm. And, the thing about it is, would you say that now, would you still identify that you are still in an identity crisis now? Or would you say that an identity crisis was a season that you were in prior?
I'd say it was definitely a season, my teenage years. After going through, I'm going to call it what it is, the phase of, like Dr. Spirit said, of figuring it out, like 19, 18, you're experiencing life. I'm just going to keep it like that. But when I got to a point that I wanted to settle down, or how God said, when you're done running the streets or you're done having your phase, you're ready for a family. You're ready to settle down and move on. You're ready to build something. You're ready to build your family. And I got to that point where I realized what I wanted. I realized what I wanted to have in my life. And in the person, I actually found the person. Well, I believe I found the person at that stage of my life to move forward with, just off the conversation we had, the connection that we had. I don't know if she still feels the same way. Did she have a connection in the early days, or still have a connection to this day? That it was something there, but it's hard to even put words on it now after everything has happened. What was it? Because now I look back and I question it the same as she's questioning it. Was anything real? Did I get the true version of you? Because a lot of things were said at the end that has me questioning a lot also. So yeah, I'm left in a place that I don't know when it comes to the relationship with her. But a monogamy relationship, I definitely want a family. That is something that I've always wanted. I made that clear to her. Yes, that's 100% true. I came in letting it be known I want a family. I want my own family, because I have a family, but to me, I didn't have a family. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have anyone to turn to that I could trust. So I was seeking that. I was looking for that. That's what I was looking for, and I thought I found it in her.
Understood.
I know we spoke about it briefly, the lack of intimacy. I'm just very curious, Kawhi, where do you think the lack of intimacy stemmed from?
Like I told Jakira before, I don't know if it's just me, but when you don't have a connection with someone, or you feel unheard or basically unseen, like I said, I got to the point that I had to write her letters, because I have a conversation and she'll take over and finish that conversation and turn her words back around and said, I said this, I said this, I said this. It got to the point to where I was physically getting exhausted to have a conversation, to even tell you how I'm feeling, how my day going, or the struggles I'm having, or why I'm even not able to give you the intimate or show you the love that I never had. I can't show you something I never had. I tried to express that early on.
I want to interrupt you real quick, because, your wife is communicating that she saw some signs initially before you guys even move forward with the marriage, where she is communicating that, hey, this one of the signs was a lack of intimacy. So this is before you kind of got into the marital issues. So at that time, do you think that your sexuality, or just you discovering more about your sexuality, could have impacted the level of intimacy, or was it something else?
No, it stems from the connection. We just did not have the connection. We never really saw eye to eye on really anything. Basically, from what I've heard or what I recall from our past conversations, almost every single thing that was decided in the marriage was something, or a majority of it, she wasn't fully on board with. She just basically allowed me to make the decision. her term was when I brought something to the relationship is if it's okay with you, I'm fine with it. So to me, that was you accepting my decision on this. So I will make the decision to buy our home that I'm currently sitting in, or move to a different neighborhood, or move to another state. And to find out that you're not fully on board, or never was fully on board, but you gave me that term, and I took it as you're accepting whatever decision I made, and that's okay. And I'll make the decision, but she'll be so pissed off with it, or so mad, or built up so much resentment. And I'm finding out 4 years later, you never was on board with whatever decision I made. So that left me questioning everything, because I'm like, okay, buying a house, I didn't know you were so opposed to buying this house. I didn't know you were so opposed to a lot of the decisions I've made. I brought it to the table for us to discuss, but you gave me that statement, and I just went and made the decision, not knowing it was going to affect our marriage. If you truly told me, no, I don't want to do that, I would have never done it. I'm telling you this now. I would never go against my partner. To me, that's the craziest thing to do. You ask them to go get a divorce if you go against your partner. If you would have truly expressed to me early on that anything that you truly did not want to do and say, I don't want to do this, I would have never made that decision. I would have never moved forward with anything that you now say was a problem. If it was just expressed to me then, I was bringing it to the table to be discussed. I didn't want you taking me as making a decision as controlling or narcissistic or whatever. I didn't want our relationship to be like that. That's why I'm asking you for your dreams, your goals, and all of that, so I can bring you along through life with me. I looked at you being my right hand, standing right behind me, and could jump in front of me if I need you to. When I went through depression in our marriage, you held it down. You never threw it over my head or anything. And when I got back on my feet, I did what I had to do. And all those moments, it made me love you even more, because I'm like, okay, she don't throw this in my face. I'm at home. I'm taking care of the kids. I basically became a stay-at-home dad twice in our marriage, because I couldn't get out of I almost say it was a depression. It was because we were stuck somewhere in our marriage. And in those moments, I'm attempting to try to save our marriage, to get us back moving. Because every time that I felt like we wasn't moving, I'll go into a depression. Or I feel like we had a very rocky place in our marriage, I'll go in a depression. Or if I'm making a big life decision, I'll slip back into depression, because I feel like I'm doing it on my own. Most times I felt like I was doing everything on my own.
Hold on, Kawhi. Hold tight right there. Hold tight right there, Kawhi. I actually want to get Jakira in the conversation, because I see her responding to what you're saying here. Jakir, is just about what you hearing Kawhi communicate. Are you guys pretty much on the same page with what he's communicating?
For the most part.
And I'm just sitting here. I don't know. I'm just sitting here shaking my head. And I have so many questions about how they even got to the forever.
Yeah.
And it's no judgment on well, it kind of is. I'm just like, premarital counseling is just so necessary. Yeah. Because here are two people that dated for 4 years before they even got married and didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
And now they are, it just breaks my heart. It really does, because it didn't have to be this. It did not have to be this.
Yeah.
And they are in a situation now where he's needing reassurance, she's needing reassurance. They don't know who each other is. They don't know who each other is. And I don't think either of them have been completely honest with each other. They're sitting here trying to figure each other out instead of saying, let me just show you me. Let me just put all of me out here, real talk. And it's not just about the sexuality. It is, let me tell you the marriage that I want to be in. Let me tell you the kind of husband I want to be. Let me tell you the kind of wife I want to be. Let me tell you the kind of husband I want. Let me tell you the kind of wife I want. Let me tell you the kind of father to my children I want. Let me tell you the kind of mother to my children I want. Now let's look at all of that and see how that appeals to us. They're playing games with each other and they don't even realize it.
Where would you recommend at this point? Because I want to keep the conversation going. probably get a couple of the initiates on real quick, but I want to give at least some direction to Jakira and Kawhi at this point, because right now they're pending divorce.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the direction that they're currently moving in, and they're still gonna have to have a relationship because they have kids together. Mm-hmm. So the relationship still doesn't really end.
Well, and I think it's interesting because the only solution that they could come up with is we both know that the marriage that we were in can't work. So let's just start over. But you can't start over because everywhere you go, there you are. It's not like you're going to wipe the slate clean and now we got amnesia. Like none of those things ever happen. You have to build something new. And I get what they're trying to do, but they're trying to do it from a very poison, toxic place. So what I would say is some individual therapy for both of them. Some serious individual therapy that lets them begin to just understand and process themselves. Like you can't communicate what you don't know. So they need to be able to understand who they are and how they become who they are up until this point. And then that will help them get clarity for where they think they're trying to go. And then at certain points in that work, maybe they can invite each other into their individual therapy and then layer in some couples therapy in order to not necessarily put it back together or to move forward with divorce, but just to hear where they are in order to help them figure it out. Right? Like there's nothing wrong with saying we don't know and then saying, well, what do we think we need to know in order to feel like we could make an educated choice? Yeah. Their children's futures, their legacy at this point, their grandchildren, their great-grands, like they are going to be elders and ancestors one day. These future generations are counting on them to get this right. Otherwise, their boys are just going to go ahead and repeat this same cycle of dysfunction, full of neglect and secrets and mistrust and not knowing who they are and not being able to advocate for themselves or running over their parents because their parents don't know how to advocate for themselves as parents. Like all of this has got to be worked out. And it's not about divorce or not divorce. It's about healing or continuing in the trauma cycle. That's really what this comes down to. That's what this comes down to for you guys. Like, what would it look like for you to meet your healed version? And that doesn't mean it's like a period. Healing is required, but a more healed version of where you are now before you start trying to make decisions that impact not just your life, but future generations. How do you get healthy enough to get clear about where you need to go? Instead of trying to look to the other person and say, if I don't see what I want to see in them, then that's going to help me make my decision. Because that's just the toxic cycle that you guys have already been doing, looking for other people to give you the answers when the answer is really in you.
Wow.
Got to go within.
I'm going to tell you, first of all, I'll tell you this again. Kawhi, Jakira, I absolutely appreciate you guys and respect you guys
1,000%.
for coming up here and actually coming up here to get answers.
Y'all got our emails flooded, by the way. It's people that's really sending in their stories, you know, saying, hey, this really motivated me to go out and get some help. So
absolutely.
Y'all story alone, even in this dysfunction and things we're trying to work through, is really helping people.
And that's what I told you guys both, you know, was going to happen, because y'all stories are going to free a lot of people, especially, you know, we not with the mess, we not with the drama. I brought Dr. Spirit here so we can actually try to get some understanding. And now what we figured out is what we really wanted was clarity from this conversation. And obviously we can't make everything crystal clear in one conversation, but I'm hoping if we was just even to get this thing moving forward an inch towards that clarity, we were able to do so. But, you know, Jakira, I know this is very emotional for you. You know, I see the tears rolling down your face. I am about to let you guys go, but I want to know from you in particular, Jakira, you know, what was probably your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Truly, sorry.
Take your time.
It's the ending of what Dr. Spirit said, because I have been seeking out my own individual therapy, and I realized I stayed in it longer than I should have because of the kids. And I did it because I didn't want the kids to, one, grow without having their mother and father in the household, or not in the same household. Not saying that we can't be healthy outside of each other, but also because I didn't want my kids to experience neglect from either one of us. And then a part of me was thinking maybe the reason why I stayed in creative was because I built this whole fantasy of like, okay, I did have the family I want. I just didn't get it how I imagined it, if that makes sense. Or how I pictured it.
But as you are getting clarity now, what is the real story if you're just honest with yourself?
I stayed in it due to childhood trauma, and I knew my biggest fear was if I leave him, that he'll be the only person ever. Because it took so long for me to find just him that it's almost going to be even probably double that time or just never going to happen. And partially it's because of fear of being alone, if that makes sense. So I settled for whatever he gave me, and when I realized I could no longer do that is when I actually said, I don't think I can wait on him to show me affection, or I can't wait for him to include me, like make me a part of his dream and goal and vision, as far as him just announcing it and everything. And he said, let's do this, that, and that. And I was like, oh, okay, because I know it's probably going to sound real old school, but I am kind of old school and grew up in an old school household where they say that the woman should, or the man should lead and the woman should follow. So as he stated before, he did suggest things like, let's go to a different state because I have a better job opportunity and it'll be more money flowing. We can come out of debt a lot quicker and it'll be just a different scenery. So I followed. I said, well, if you think this would be the best decision for the family, then yeah, let's go ahead. By all means, let's do it. I never threw it back in his face up until the end. I take that back. Because it's like, I said it, but he never, I used to say this thing, he never was patient enough to let things play out. Not saying that it could have played out till the wheels fall off, but that's kind of the scenario that I told him. But he never was patient enough to fully, you know how you plant the seed, you gotta water and take care of it before the seed actually sprout anything. He never was patient enough to let it sprout. We'd water it. If it didn't come in like 2 or 3 tries, I call it the microwave effect. I feel like certain things he wanted a microwave effect went in. I couldn't give him that response of like the microwave effect because I knew certain things took time to grow and it took time to fluster, which is why we are where we are, because I lost my voice. I gave up trying to suggest things because every time I did, it will always get either rebutted or instead of doing it that way, let's do it this way. And like I said, I didn't stand strong to what I knew I really wanted, like my core values. I didn't stand strong to always was easily convinced.
Well, let me jump in here and say, because you started off by taking ownership, which was the reality, is that if I'm being honest with myself, I never really wanted to be in this relationship. I chose it for the wrong reasons. I was staying for the wrong reasons. And when you go down the road and you begin to then blame him, you call it the microwave effect. And you say he wasn't patient enough, when the reality is he wasn't patient enough for your satisfaction, right? That is just an incompatibility. Because for someone that he's compatible with, 2 or 3 days may be enough for them if they are compatible. So rather than blame him or make him believe that there were things that he didn't do that somehow made him less than or not enough, that will then wound him and have him trying to overcorrect in other relationships where he doesn't need to correct, he just needs to be himself. Can you just give him that clarity and the closure then that he's asking for by just being honest enough to say, if I'm being real, I never knew how to use my own voice. I never knew how to ask for what I wanted. I never believed that I deserved what I actually wanted. And so I settled for this because you chose me. And I thought that I could figure out how to make it work. And the reality and the honest answer is that I can't. Because see, friendship can be forged there. When we recognize that we're just two people who are just not compatible, but there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing wrong with me. It's just we have two different versions of forever. There's grace there. There's friendship there. There's love there. There's respect there. There's honesty there that just says, I just want something different for what my forever person looks like. And if you can just find your way to that with no blame and no shame and do the work around owning that, maybe then you all can move forward in a healthy way for yourselves and for your children.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Jakir, for coming up here and sharing with us and talking to us. Kawhi, obviously you were the person that reached out to us initially. You know, you sent us that email and you wanted to go about getting some help. And, you know, this was obviously one of the things that I wanted to do from you after talking to you and just knowing that you and Jakir both sat down and watched Dr. Spirit and a bunch of episodes together, but this was one of your favorites. Do you feel like you made any level of progress, you know, after sitting here in this conversation?
I definitely did. Definitely different ways of looking at it, and understanding that we both just need, I say, definitely clarity on. Be honest, I don't know exactly what, but we definitely need clarity to get to the closure. And yeah, I'm still at that place of uncertainty, but I'm gonna accept whatever that needs to happen to move forward. I just want to express to her that the way it was perceived was not actually what I intended. I definitely wanted something different. I definitely wanted to be with you and build a life with you. I definitely did. I definitely acknowledged all my hurt and definitely with keeping that secret. It was not something like I said early on, I knew it was going to cause some emotional hurt, and that I truly didn't mean for it to hurt you this badly, where it derailed us for so many years and got this so much resentment between each other that got us to this point. I hate that it got us to this point, withholding that information and just the way everything went. That truly is not where I wanted us to be, and I wanted us to be better.
And what I really hope that someday you will be able to understand, even if you can't understand it now, is that the things that got you here are none of the things that you believe they are right now. You're looking for the smoking gun and you are blaming yourself for the disclosure. You're blaming yourself for her not understanding. You're blaming yourself for you trying to have strategies that didn't work for her. And you're missing what the reality is that you chose a woman who was not sure that she was choosing you for who you were. And when she realized this isn't necessarily the relationship for me, she allowed herself to go forward anyway. And so what I want you to understand is that she didn't know herself in the same way that you didn't know you. And she thought, I gotta figure out how to make it work. And the reason why you kept running into all of the problems that couldn't be solved is because you were never at the root of the actual problem, which is that your wife wasn't trying to be in a forever relationship with you. She was trying to make a marriage work because she said, I do. And if you don't see the clarity in that, you will beat yourself up and overcorrect things that don't require correction. You'll second guess your choices to be vulnerable, to try. You did the right things with the wrong person because you chose somebody who wasn't actually compatible with who you are. They were compatible with the trauma that led you to say yes and to rush forward because you both wanted family so badly that you exploded into forever I do and 3 children all at once without putting on the brakes to recognize all the bumps in the road were actually red flags that you could not translate.
Wow. Kawhi, let me tell you, this is going to be a lot to process. Actually, for both of you guys.
Agree.
Because this is heavy. And it's not going to be anything, obviously, that we can, fix in a conversation. but the opportunity again to gain clarity and to move forward is what I wanted to achieve here with you guys. That's what we talked about in private. And, you know, I'm going to continue to talk to you guys in private because, you know, you guys got my personal contact information. And obviously, we always at this point invested in you guys' story and here to support you guys. But I want you guys to really reflect on the conversation that we've had and make the best decisions that you possibly can, because it's not even about you two guys. Now it's 3 boys involved in all your decisions from this point moving on. And just know we are fully backing and in support of you guys moving forward the healthiest way possible, whatever that looks like. Okay.
Yeah, and if we can connect you guys to some therapy, you guys want to get with some great individual therapists, let me know. I will give you guys some great referrals. And I go back to that G word. If you guys can have grace for each other and recognize that you are both healing and growing and evolving and finally telling your actual truths, I think you guys will love each other in a different way.
Agreed.
Well, listen, Jakira, Kawhi, much love to you both. I'm going to let you guys go for the night, okay?
Thank you.
Wait, Jaquai
What you got, Jakira?
Jakira has a question.
Hold on. Go ahead, Jakira.
I was just going to ask Dr. Spirit a question as far as, like, is there a starting point to finding grace, or is it just something we just got to pray about and over time kind of thing it'll come?
Well, I think that the prayer definitely helps, but I think the starting point to finding grace is first forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know when you didn't know them, and learning how to let go of those things from a place of judgment, but more so looking at them for information to empower you as you go forward. And it is, how do you be gentle with yourself? And how do you recognize that the more that you are gentle and the more you tell your truth, the more you will fall in love with you, and the more you will thank yourself and have grace for all of the things that you had to survive in those unhealed places when you didn't know, but you were still trying to do the best that you could.
Okay.
Okay. That version brought you to where you are now.
Yeah.
Yep. And now is when you have the chance to live the real life that you deserve. All of you guys. And that's what's really most important. Right. Sometimes we get to, guys, this is one of the things I love to explain to people, is that sometimes we get to the best versions of ourselves in the most unhealthiest of ways. Because the dysfunction will just drive us to the truth. It will just uncover all of the things. We'll get to the point where we can't hide from other people and we can't hide from ourselves. And so when I say A plus B always equals C, and if it doesn't, then we're working with the wrong variables, that's what was happening in their marriage over and over, where they kept having issues going, this just doesn't make sense. The answer doesn't make sense. Why you're not showing up doesn't make sense. Why you're not keeping your word doesn't make sense. Why we keep finding ourselves in the same place doesn't make sense. It's because you're working with the wrong variables. They were arguing and trying to fix the leaves on the trees and never got to the root. And that's why it's so important. And that's why therapy matters, is because if you can get still and you can get quiet, you can hear it and you can follow the vibration and get to the root. And then when you're at the root, then you can really begin to solve the real problems that are poisoning the entire tree.
Wow.
First of all, I
That's
feel
how
like
it
Dr.
works.
Spirit just saved my future marriage.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tonight.
that's what's up. That's what's up. I'm trying to save as many as possible. As many as possible. Real
Oh
talk.
my goodness, Jakira,
Real
we're going
talk.
to let you go for the night, sweetheart. I really
I love
appreciate
you,
you joining us,
sis.
okay?
I love
Okay,
you.
thank you guys
I
so
love you.
much.
I'm wishing you guys every good thing.
Good night. Yeah.
Every
Shout
good
out,
thing.
shout out to her and Kawan, man, for coming up and sharing their story with us.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's so eerie how similar they are. You know, like they really latched on to each other for different reasons, of
Yeah.
course. But it had so much to do, like you said, with self-identity and understanding, addressing all of those traumas. And they both chose to push forward with a relationship. And, you know, it's outside perspective, but I'm thinking they both chose to push forward with a relationship just out of the wanting a relationship and a family.
Yeah.
Rather than actually wanting to be this particular person.
Yeah.
And also don't miss this too. It's like it was also a sense of this not wanting to be alone either.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
she also did clear was clear about, you know, this loneliness
Mm-hmm.
and this fear of being alone.
Yeah.
And
That was
Kawhi
attached to
he
that.
don't even have to say he was alone. We know that if you know are
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's the proper term, but if you are not able to be upfront and honest with yourself about your sexuality, I can only imagine how alone
Or anything.
Right.
For him, the deep wound was safety. Right? The people that were entrusted to take care of me didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They put me in harm's way. And even when they realized things that were inappropriate that were going on right in front of them, either they chose to ignore it, they didn't have the tools to be able to recognize what was going on, and they never got him the care that he needed. So when he was confronted with what the actual truth was, he was left to deal with that on his own, and he spiraled. So for him, she represented safety. Somebody is finally going to see me.
Wow.
Somebody is going to know me. I'm going to have one person in this whole entire planet that I can connect with. So for him, it was safety. For her, neglect, right? If I'm neglected, nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. Nobody's thinking about me. Nobody values me. And then somebody comes along, the very first person, as she said, who was her first. Somebody comes along and sees me and likes me and wants me and is paying attention to me. And as he said, I wanted to give her the house, the cars, the family. I wanted to give it all to her. Somebody who's neglected is starving.
Yeah.
And not only do I want to feed you, but I want to satiate you. I want to give you everything. That's intoxicating,
Yeah.
right? So all of that. And like, if we don't understand what is happening and vibrating at our core, we are susceptible to the same things over and over in all of our relationships.
How do 3 babies happen? Like, how does the problem go addressed for so long?
Because I'm so desperate to get to the family, right? So if I ask you, what is your picture of family? 1 baby is not enough. 2, 3, I need to get as many. This is the family. There's an urgency, but also there's an anchoring, right? Because if we got into all of that and we went all the way there, every baby made him feel more safe.
Oh, wow.
You're not gonna leave me. I got my family now. This is what I've always wanted. I've got it now.
Wow.
Right? Like it's really deep. It's really deep.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the kid, it's not about, you know, you're not really thinking legacy or vision or, you know, how we gonna rate what we're gonna build so much in the inspiration of the family. It's more for selfish reasons.
More security, more
why?
protection.
It's protection, yeah, and by survival, it's our need to survive. Safety is a primary survival mechanism, right? So for him, it was safety. I'm gonna have babies. For her, it was neglect. I don't want him to leave me. I don't want to be neglected again. I don't want to be alone again. I don't want to be unseen. I don't want to be by myself again. So even though I don't want to have all these babies and I don't want to have them right now, I'll keep saying okay because he's pushing and I don't want to lose him. So again, we're bouncing off of each other and then we wind up in this situation, and I'm sure they both love both of their boys, but it wasn't from a place of, I love you so much, I want to make a life with you that then we can continue to nurture and foster forever.
I want to ask this because as somebody who's deep into work, how often is it that there's a man who's struggling with his sexuality inside of a marriage? Is this something that, because one of the biggest things that Jakira was, she was like, Ty, I'm embarrassed. I can't believe I fell for this. You know, like that was, you know, her sentiment. She said, you know, I feel dumb. Like she communicated that this could happen to me.
After
But-
seeing the signs.
After seeing the signs.
But
Do you
when she says that she saw the signs, let's be real. Like, we can try to connect all the dots that we want to, and hindsight is always 20/20. But those weren't necessarily signs that your man is bisexual. There's signs that there's some intimacy issues. There's signs that there's some lack of communication issues. There's signs that there's some withdrawal issues and lack of coping skills issues. But you don't know what somebody is unless they tell you or unless you see them in action. So women and men alike have to stop blaming themselves for dots that they cannot connect.
Yeah.
He purposely hid it from her. She didn't have the information. Hindsight is always 20/20 because then you go, oh, so that's what that was. Oh, that's what that was. But even now he's telling her, no, that's not what that was. You're connecting dots that aren't necessarily to be connected. You're telling yourself a story that was not. So that's not necessarily it. And I get it that a lot of women worry, a lot of men worry, more women worry than men because we, for some reason, as men, well, I'm not a man, but you know what I mean. As men, the idea is that it's somehow sexy or okay, in theory, for women to be bisexual. And it's usually because y'all think that it has something to do with you. Like you're going to get a piece of that.
Right.
But the moment that you realize that she doesn't want you to be a part of it at all, oh, then it's a different kind of problem.
Absolutely.
And if she wants the woman to become the primary and you to become the secondary,
Bigger problem.
then there's really a problem, especially if you don't even get to watch because all you care about is the sex.
That ain't
okay?
gonna work then.
Right.
Y'all are so. But to that point,
Slayer.
I can't with you. But to that point, when you talk about sexuality and you talk about sexual identity, 4 to 5% of the population is estimated to be part of the LGBTQAI plus community.
It's 4 to 5%?
4 to 5%. It's really
Wow.
small. Or do you think that that's large?
I mean, I see it on every movie now, so I just think it's way more than 4 to 5%.
Yeah, that could be
But
propaganda, but yeah, that's
that is a lot smaller than I would have thought it
Yeah,
was.
it's 4 to 5%. And so we think that it's everybody. You may think it's a little bit higher because you're in a community in Atlanta where a lot more people can congregate as a community,
Right,
right?
right,
So
right.
it may be higher per capita where you are,
Right.
but we're talking about as part of the human condition.
Right.
So the number is not as high as some of the other issues that people want to make it an issue. And let's also be real. I just have to be honest and say most people don't necessarily have the issue like they say they do. They will tell you one thing and then be out there trying to find men for their partners, trying to find women for their partners. A lot of couples figure this out.
wow.
Yeah, but it's a whole bunch of folks in the chat going, girl, you know that's right, because, yeah.
That's a whole nother
People make this
episode.
a-
Whole nother episode.
Oh, y'all don't know the lifestyle?
No.
Y'all don't know poly? Y'all don't know monogamous?
Well, we
Y'all don't know-
introduced it prior. We
Yeah.
had one polyamorous couple come on to the set for the first time.
But
and
we didn't
introduce
really
it.
dive into the
nuances.
sexual aspect of it.
No, yeah, we
Oh,
didn't.
y'all got to bring me back. Y'all know I wrote a whole dissertation on it. Like literally, that's what I got my PhD in. Consensual non-monogamy among married and cohabitating African-American couples.
Oh
We
my
definitely
God.
got to
Yeah, that was mine. That's me.
Oh my God. Here, so she like Dr. Spit in them trenches.
Expert.
She in them
Oh, wait,
trenches,
wait,
y'all.
when I say I do this, I do this. And there is no part of a person that we cannot talk about and look at what is normal and what is human in our experience and then figure out what we want to do with it from a non-judgmental place, but from an empowered place, because that's what it's really all about.
Man, let me tell you guys, this is something new that we're bringing here with us being able to give direction, give perspective or any level of coaching to couples. And if you are somebody that feels like you would also like to go about being on the Hardly Initiated platform to receive something similar, go ahead and send us an email at info@hardlyinitiated.com, info@hardlyinitiated.com. And if you want to take a step further and you want to be somebody that actually just jumps in just straight up therapy, we got one of the greatest therapists that I personally have ever met in my life, and that I know personally, especially located here in Atlanta.
I love
but
you.
you're doing virtual sessions, so you really can be located anywhere. So if you want to jump straight into it, please let the people know how can they get in touch with Dr. Spirit.
Oh, they can find me at Talk to Spirit everywhere. It's Talk the number 2 Spirit, or you can call me at the office, okay? 888-718-2T2S. Again, 888-718-2T2S. And let me say this, right? And this is no shade. This is no, bashing. But I just want you to find high quality care. And I want you to recognize that there is a difference between influencers with opinions. It's a difference between life coaches. It's a difference between social workers. It's a difference between licensed professional counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. Not all of these things are created equal. So make sure that you are doing your homework. Make sure that you are asking the questions. And if somebody is really about the work, they should have no problem showing you the receipts.
I like
Okay?
that.
I'm just being real. I'm just being
Absolutely.
real.
Listen, I mean, she laid it out for you guys. It's always an absolute blessing to have you here on the
Yay.
platform with us at Hardly Initiated. And guys, I want to let you know as well, because I want everybody, man, let me tell you something, man, pass me that damn deck, Ryan.
Oh yeah, go ahead and blow
Oh,
it.
the
Go
deck.
ahead.
Can you,
Well,
can
deck.
you
if
please?
this was not the perfect episode, we need to be having some
Yeah.
deep
Do
conversation.
you guys have questions in there about
Absolutely.
like
We
have
sexual
100
identity? And have
Absolutely.
you ever?
Yes.
Okay.
We have included sexual identity questions in here. The reality of it is we are just not creative with our questioning. We don't explore. We sometimes we just don't even know.
Do you have the
What to
trauma
ask?
questions in there? Like, are you aware of what your trauma is?
Man, we got some trauma questions in
I'm
here.
going
We
through
got
this
some
deck. Give me
identity
this
questions
thing.
in
Let
here.
me
we
see.
got you. We got you.
We got something. Listen, and the reason we did it too is because, and we've already been getting feedback. The initiates is telling us it's going to get you, and sometimes you just need a little bit of help getting into conversations that you normally wouldn't. And man, a lot of what I'm hearing from, the couples that we've had on here, the people that have came onto the initiation hotline, we just not having the right conversations before we go about making these lifelong decisions.
Man, we don't even know the conversations to have.
We don't.
And then even when we turn to some of the experts, unfortunately, and that's why I try to explain to people, like premarital counseling is different. And that's why I always say it's no shade to the pastor. But if your premarital counseling was one session or two sessions where the pastor that's marrying you has already decided that they're going to marry you, and they're just saying, okay, so do you understand what you're getting yourself into? And let me give you the greatest piece of advice that somebody gave me. And let me tell you what time you got to get to the altar. That is not.
It's onboarding. It's
Come
onboarding.
on. And expedited onboarding. And that is not going to get you to your forever. It is going to somebody who knows the questions that you don't know that need to be asked in order to determine, do we have what we need in order to make it to forever?
Wow.
Because most people don't even know the questions. They don't know, do you want to live in the city or do you want to retire to a farm? Some kids or no kids. Your parents moving in with you when they become older and elderly, or are they going to be placed in assisted living? How do you feel about getting tubes tied versus vasectomies? How do you feel about public school versus private school? How do you feel about loaning family money? How do you feel about your bank account, my bank account, our bank account? How do you feel about premarital agreements, post-nump agreements, and the list goes on and on. And if you don't know what to ask, then you will find yourself in conflict over and over and over every time you get to a different place. So get with an expert that'll help you level up before you get there, so you know how many elevators are in the building that you're actually trying to live in.
Oh,
Another
Come
one.
on.
we're gonna have to drop that special premarital day.
Oh, hey,
20 questions to
on.
know if you should say I do.
let me tell you, honestly, man, this was just so powerful. Again, big shout out to Kawhi and Jakir for coming up here. Much love to you. Big shout out again to Dr. Spirit and the whole Talk
And-
to Spirit
Come on.
Enterprises.
We just had somebody in the chat that asked Dr. Spirit if she have cards. Dr. Spirit, we are gifting those to you.
Oh, thank
So those
you.
are absolutely your cards. Pop them
Yes.
off at a game night.
So the next ones we'll do is 20 questions to know whether or not there should be a second date.
Oh,
That'll
I
be
like
the next
that.
day.
The new series.
Doom, doom,
And
doom.
you know what? Let's go ahead. I mean, this was such a fantastic. I mean, 'cause the fact that we had initiates to come on and get live coaching is incredible. I want to try our new giveaway page. I want to test it out. So let's give some cards away tonight, actually.
let's do a
Yeah.
giveaway.
So I'm going to just drop the link in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat, guys. What we'll do, it's a random selector. So however many people apply between now and 24 hours, we're going to pick a couple of people out of there. We're going to email y'all, and we're going to send those cards out to your address. So all you got to do is literally click the link that I'm getting ready to drop in the chat and fill it out. That's it.
And then take pictures.
We got
how they
you.
were doing the little.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, if you get the cards, you got to take a picture.
Make sure you send us over a picture with you holding this deck so we can showcase you on our platform here. And it has been an absolute blessing to be able to earn your viewership today, guys. As you guys know, we are at the end of the road here. I need you guys to press subscribe. I want you guys to share this with somebody because I'm telling you, this is going to save somebody. I already told Dr. Spirit, she saved my future marriage right here, because these kind of conversations are so important, because a lot of times we don't even have them until year 6 of marriage. Let's go ahead and save some time, some energy, save our kids, save our legacy, save our lives. Come on. All right? Ryan, you got anything before I let the people go?
We good, man. Great. I would say performance, Dr. Spirit. You really held it down.
Oh,
I mean,
this was
you
light
put on.
work. This
Hey.
was one
Yeah.
couple at the end of the day.
No. You healed at least 1,000 tonight.
Oh,
1,000 couples healed
man,
tonight.
that is a fact.
This video gonna go. So this is excellent.
Listen,
I love
guys,
that.
let me tell you, I love you, Dr. Spirit.
I love you
Thank you
guys.
so much. And we love you guys as well. And as you guys already know, hardly initiated, we are out.